Okay,
Casey, not Cassie, right?
yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
All right, so 7:02, we'll call the meeting to order. That's Scott there. Looks like the clerk has already taken down all the visitor names. So, great job. Additions to the agenda. I think there's several. One we just saw, Casey Manji, our Group 2 water consultant, I guess, is here, or wastewater treatment plant. So we'll add Casey.
C-A-S-I-E, is it?
Yes, M-O-N-G-E. So we'll add Casey. I think is she doing a report? Is that she's coming to?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
just going to kind of talk to us about some procedures and other things with
Okay.
our treatment plant.
I also, I guess, well, there's a few more, but before we do that, I guess Peter asked if I'd run the meeting at least to start with, so we'll do that. Justin Slack, council member. But can we get, I guess maybe, is it okay if we have some flexibility in moving some of these around based on, like, Casey's not at the bottom, if we want to have her talk towards the front?
I have no objection.
Okay, good. Additional agenda items, the resignation of Sherry McClellan as council member and as Mayor Pro Tem, and therefore acting mayor. So we'll need to go through that. That process, and then we'll need to appoint a new Mayor Pro Tem tonight. And then I guess also we'll talk about our plan for appointing the new council member. So, let's see, and then plan for new council spot.
Do we want to put IT service stuff on here?
Sure, yep.
Is that,
So
I don't know
Nathan,
if it's worthy for a meeting, but
yeah, we
sure.
can, sure. So, IT, like IT technical support, Nathan wanted to add or have a conversation about that as an addition tonight too. IT services.
That's the third item.
yeah.
Yes. And then that's all that I think I had. Yeah, all I knew about anyway.
I think that's all I have.
Anything else, Peter, that you?
Diesel fuel on the city streets. That's an update on what
Okay.
action I've taken.
Okay. Why don't we put that when we talk about the no truck parking signs?
Okay, that's good.
Right here, overnight parking, because that's
That
goes
applies.
hand in hand, so we'll put, and then leak, what's that way, leaking truck, yeah, leaking vehicles. Okay. All right. And if we need to add something later, if you think about something, I mean, we're flexible in doing that. All right, so, we need to approve the, January 8th, 2020, that's Lorraine Gillen.
She's in here.
January 8th, 2020 minutes.
I have a parliamentary question.
Yes.
Is it possible to table all or a portion of the minutes? Most of all, a portion of the minutes. I've talked to a citizen who was present at our last meeting. She has some questions as to the accuracy of certain parts of the minutes.
Okay.
And
Would we table that till later tonight, or at a different,
I'd like to table it until the next
Next
regular meeting.
okay? I don't have any. So,
I'll explain to the council what's afoot. She had some questions about one element of the minutes
Okay.
that pertains to the vacation pay issue. and it's a material fact, so
Okay.
she's taken it upon herself to have the minutes or the recording of that meeting transcribed. And when we have that transcription in hand, we'll be in a better position to assess the minutes. I'm sorry, I'm a little hoarse tonight.
Okay, so we'll table that. No objections
No.
till the next meeting. And then bring that up. Okay, so originally we had on here plan for appointing a mayor, but in light of the resignation, and there's a letter in here that you all received. And I believe that you also received either personal visits or phone calls
Correct.
from
This is what
Councilmember
we do.
McClellan. Let's see. So I guess we need to make a motion to accept the resignation.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Peter. I'll second it. Resignation. So a motion by Councilman Davenport, second by Slack. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Abstain. All right, passes 3-0. Okay. Now we need to appoint a mayor pro tem, who will be the acting mayor, just like we did last meeting, until we appoint a mayor, which we'll talk more about later tonight with appointment. But I've talked to Nathan about it, and he was willing to accept the
Oh,
mayor pro
good.
tem,
Good.
knowing that it's just going to be an acting spot to sign checks and be the point person if somebody, if there's an issue at hand that the mayor, quote, has to deal with until we appoint a mayor. And I told him I would help him in any information that I had from before, and so he was willing to do
Good.
that.
Congratulations.
So
Thank
you're
you.
you're willing to
We're indebted to you.
accept that? Okay.
Yep.
So I'll make the motion,
Second.
seconded by Peter. So let's see, motion Slack for Nathan. PT, second by Davenport. Any discussion? No. Peter said we're in gratitude of you, so I'll second that.
Oh,
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstain.
yes.
Okay, so it passes 2-0-3,
201.
or sorry, 2-0-1, yes. With Luck abstaining. Okay. So it's up to you guys, but so we have both the plan for the council spot. Now we have 90 days to fulfill that, and we also have 60 days left roughly to fulfill the mayor spot. I think we probably have all thought about it over the last month for the mayor, different things. I don't know if we want to advertise it in the newspaper. We've talked, it's obviously been out there for quite a while, but if there's any, thoughts that we want to get it, I think there's maybe one person that's shown interest. But I don't have it, I'm indifferent. I think it's, for the most part, everyone's known about it. But if we want to like maybe put it in the advertiser that we're accepting, we did that last time, just so if you guys recall.
Yeah.
We had applications from people in Spokane that used to maybe live here that thought they could do it from Spokane or Airway. It has to be, as far as I know, it has to be a citizen, has to reside in the city limits, has to be registered as a voter for at least a year prior to taking office. So I don't know.
It has to be somebody from the city of Harrington.
In the city limits, yes, with right in. Yeah.
And the other thing that we've ran into on some other issues is a job description, if you will. Do we have, or can we put in place some kind of, obviously some requirements beforehand so that they can be considered, the things that you just spoke about, maybe in writing, and then on top of that, maybe also a job description of some sort. We know a lot of the duties, but just so that somebody has some material to either read through.
I think that's,
and to be held accountable to?
if it's not if it's not someone on the council, then that knows it, yes, because the council members, I think, know what it probably entails for the most part, but so if it's I mean, we've talked about this, and I think most council members aren't interested at that position at this point, so I think it would be beneficial for us, so that way it's clear expectations for those that know what they're getting themselves into, or, I don't think we have a job description.
Have you came across anything for, okay.
I know during the course of, well, so Rudy Wagner was the mayor in '79, Paul ran and won, and then there was 2 courses during Paul's tenure up until 15 that he wasn't the mayor. One was Steve Tim and one was Harry Kraus. I don't know if at that time, I don't know anything about if Steve Tim was on the council and he knew, or if Harry, I don't know those things, so I don't know that we have one. We could probably look at MRSC for like maybe a sample description. Obviously, then we can just put our heads together.
The
to
AWC book gives an outline of what
The mayor
Somewhere
duties
to
are.
start.
their duties are.
Is a mayor, like the mayor council form of government. I think that's probably good. So again, from expectation standpoint, from both sides, for the people that are applying, and then what the council would expect. So we can work with that, I guess. We can ask the clerk to look for some of those things, and then maybe you'll want to look a little bit like
Yeah,
come
absolutely.
across. Do we want to? So I think that's regardless if we post it, we'll want to have a packet or something like and I think we also probably want to have somebody put it like a letter of interest and why. I don't know if we did it last time for our council positions that we appointed last year, but I know like in the city of Spokane, they just appointed a new council member because of an election thing, and they had interviews. The council members interviewed all the applicants. If we want to do that, I know one, so for the mayor, we could do that also for the council, but we have to take turn, like do it within 2, so it wouldn't be a
Meeting.
quorum or whatever.
What committee does that fall under? Is there a committee responsibility for?
No, I mean, I
We have the administrative one, if that falls closest, maybe.
think administrative could help set the stage, like set the description and things. And then, but I don't know, I would want to give every council member the opportunity to interview or to be a part of that or to talk.
Sure.
Without saying, well, you're not on that committee, so you can't do that. I mean, so as long as we just did it in 2s, we would be fine. And the same I would say that would also probably apply to the council position too. We just have 1 month less for the mayor than we do the council. If we want to, same thing, do you think we should do something for the council?
I think there should probably be something put, these don't have to be extensive 40-page packets, but I think there should be something in writing that's, we accept and approve, and for this time and going forward too,
Okay,
for years to come. It's my opinion.
yeah. So do we want to, so the next council meeting, I think, is the 11th of March. Do we want to set for both positions, do we want to do like 2 weeks? Or I guess if you post it, if you send it tomorrow off to if we decide to advertise or put it in the advertiser, or first I should say, do we want to put it in the advertiser? Do you think that's,
I think we ought to publish it.
Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
Make a public declaration.
okay,
There might be valid candidates for either one of them that
right.
hasn't heard by
Right.
ear.
So, and then, so Janice, if you get those in, if it goes in by next Friday, it'll be in for next, I think it comes out yesterday.
Wednesday.
Wednesdays
Wednesday.
they go out, yeah.
They
So-
do about like 4 the Friday before or something like that.
Yeah. Councilmember Shanks here.
Mr. Mayor,
No.
7/16. right now, Levi, we're talking about the positions. So we
Okay.
accepted, Sherry McClellan had resigned her position, so we
Right.
accepted that. Now we're talking about the process for appointing, a new mayor and a new
Okay.
council member. Councilmember, Luck had accepted the mayor pro tem / acting mayor,
Okay.
for the time being. So, well, so that'll go out next the 19th. We might say, give ourselves, I think a lot of people know about it now, but maybe the 28th, which is the last Friday of the month, so that's a week and a half for them to submit an application or come in and talk to people. That way
Okay.
that'll give us a week and a half before the next council meeting to potentially get at least a council member in,
Okay.
if not, and/or the mayor. I've heard about potentially 5 people for the council maybe be interested. I don't know.
Oh, good.
I mean,
I-
has shown it,
I'm
like,
aware of one.
that, I don't know if they'll follow through, but through everything, but at least, so we might have several applicants for that, but, so if we post that by this Friday, that'll go out next week, and then we'll have till the 28th to, receive, and we'll ask for letters of interest, I guess. And Janice will work with you, Nathan and I can,
Okay.
posting, just because I said last time we had people that were from out of the area, and we don't want,
Right.
we don't need that, or still might get them, but at least try to be, we can be clearer. Okay, so those will be due 2/28. What's a letter of interest? And then a plan to potentially appoint. We can maybe, if it works out, we might be able to appoint one or both, depending on the level of interest that we receive by the March 11th regularly scheduled meeting. Does that work?
Yep,
Okay.
works for me.
That work? Okay. Also, you weren't here, but Councilmember Davenport asked if I just run it, the meeting, but if you want to run it or anything, then you're more than welcome to.
I think we're happy.
Okay. So that'll do both of those. Also, we tabled this, the approval of minutes until the next meeting. There's some
Okay.
maybe potential discrepancy
Okay.
in the written minutes, and they're trying to figure, Peter is working with some people to get that kind of cleared up, so. Okay, so we got those, I guess, in place, what we're gonna do.
Okay.
We'll just ask that this, I mean, the citizens are here. I know there's some people that might be interested too, but is there any questions or anything from folks just about that process that we'll be doing that you want to bring up now and not have to wait till the very end?
Process of picking a bear and a
Yeah,
councilman. I just find it a little bit odd that who's going to decide? I mean, none of you guys were interviewed for the job, and so what I'm getting out of this now is that you want to take and interview a person, their qualifications before you let them in.
so so we appointed,
Sherry,
and also Nathan and also Tim Tipton. So we appointed 3 people to council last year, and also the council appointed me to the mayor position last year. So the council took the there was, I think, multiple people that applied for the mayor's position, and the council discussed those. I wasn't present for some of those discussions just because I abstained from those conversations because I was part of it,
Okay.
but, so there is precedent of the council, last year though, for each appointment, there was only, for the council positions, there was only one person for each time that it had applied. So that was, but the council still discussed it and talked to each of those applicants beforehand.
well,
No.
what I was trying to get at, you're not trying to change rules or do anything different.
No.
They were elected, there were
Yeah,
some
is
that
it
were
different?
elected.
elect those, some of those were elected and then the council appointed some, so it's a little bit different when you're elected.
Council has the
As
authority
opposed
to
to being
appoint
appointed.
in the absence of an election process.
That's what the county, and we followed that from the county. I had never experienced it before.
None of us had.
Right, and it was the first time it was Jeremy Sewell was elected the position, Rick Becker's position, after Rick retired, and then Jeremy resigned 2 or 3 months into his position. And so that's when Mayor Haas was the mayor at that time, but we, the council,
Well, maybe I misunderstood. I was just trying to, clarification.
yeah. So we
Legitimate
have,
question.
so no, and that's right. So we have, that's what I mentioned. So the council has, according to the county, we have 90 days after each vacancy to fill the position. And if we don't do it, then it goes to the commissioners and they appoint somebody. If the council either chooses not to, drags their feet, decides they don't, whatever reason, if the council doesn't do it, it automatically goes to the county commissioners to fill the spot.
So just so I'm clear on this and crystal clear, more than one person wants that council seat.
I've heard,
The interest people are gonna be interviewing for the job.
I don't say interviewing, I think maybe the council might just talk to them and say, hey, what is your vision for the city? Why are you interested in this job?
Right.
It's not paid, the council position's not paid.
Right.
Do you know, like, what you're getting yourself into, type of thing? So.
And even the appointed people were still, letters of interest were still, and that I'd say is maybe a verbal, was what we'd be going through with the people that are interested now.
Yeah, well, you had to, everyone submitted a letter,
Yeah.
every appointed person last year had to submit a letter of interest.
Thank you.
Okay, you submit a letter of interest, and then what happens, so you got 5 people that want that seat.
Well, I think that's for then the council, we didn't have that, we didn't experience that last time.
There's only one person for,
So now, like I said, I just saw that in Spokane, they had the exact similar happen. So the council members all interviewed, if that's the word, they had discussions with the interested applicants to see like who they felt would be the best fit to go to their,
Well, they're interviewing for the job, basically.
I guess that's, I mean,
And is that standard, what this council's always done? Everything? Sure.
so last time, like each time there was an appointment, I know that it wasn't officially, I mean, each council member, I'm sure, talked to these people. I know I talked to every single person that was appointed ahead of time, and we knew of that person of interest. And so I think we recommended the council go to that person, or that person go to the council and talk to them.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Justin. I just want to make sure everything's loyal.
Sure.
That it's fair, that what's happened in the past stays, nothing new changes, and that's
Sure.
kind of going with that.
No, and most of our direction, last year came, 2 years before, whatever, that all came, we directed from the county auditor. Shelley Johnston is who we got our direction from. That's how we found out about
Okay.
the timing and everything too.
I would be to guess too, and I don't know this for a fact, but my guess would be as far as direction from the city itself, having like a different policy or procedure, not having seen one, that there maybe isn't one. So that's why we use what came from the county,
Yeah.
is my guess. So if you're asking if the city itself is changing, I don't know that we have any baseline at all. Maybe, maybe not.
And then this would also be an opportune time then to write down our process and
You bet.
procedures so that
Absolutely.
we.
Well, I just tried to clarify.
Yeah,
I wasn't
no.
trying to jump on you guys.
Yeah, no. Those are, like I said, we didn't have this much interest last time, in 3 different times, and it was, I guess, almost 2 years, right? Because
Yeah, a year and a half.
you'd come on right after Jeremy. So, and I said, we want to give those people, some people that have mentioned it, they might decide in the end, people talk, right? Like, oh, I'm interested, and then when push comes to shove, they have to put their pen to paper, they decide they don't want to do that. So that's why I think, at least a letter of interest, so that way we know those folks that are,
Well, for everybody, you know who filed and who didn't, so we all know that.
sure.
YouTube.
Just for the record.
It's public.
No.
Okay, any other questions about that from any folks? Okay. why don't we, since we have a guest here tonight, why don't we go with our esteemed guest, and we'll move her up to the next spot here above plan for hiring the maintenance worker, and we can hear from her and then let her get home because she has a long drive.
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know about esteemed guest, but
Well, and
I
our,
appreciate that.
yeah.
Make you feel all good.
Yeah, so those of you who don't know, this is Casey Manji. She is our contract level 2 operator that we've worked with probably for, I guess it's been 3 years, because you
Yep.
came on with Dylan originally.
Yep, yep.
And so she's here to, I don't know if you want to introduce her, because you talked to her, but
No, I asked Casey to come out just to kind of clarify some stuff with the processes and the procedures of the stuff with the treatment plant, and with kind of any questions that the council had, and then maybe the public too, especially with some of the stuff we went through previously with our fine and that stuff. So I just kind of, I guess, would give you the floor to kind of tell us, maybe run us through kind
Start
of
with
a
a little history, maybe?
yeah, a little history and maybe and what goes on, so we have a really solid understanding of
Okay.
what you do, what we need to do, what happens, kind of the process through maybe the month or
Yeah.
whatever period.
Okay. So Dylan hired me. At the time of me being hired by Dylan, he was already quite behind in some of the paperwork that needed to be done. And I think he was facing, or the city was facing, maybe some trouble even at that point. So I came on and he wanted me to be like a bare bones. So you have to have a group 2 operator for your plant. Have to. And contract operations are really common because a lot of cities, they either can't find someone who's a group 2 operator, or they just don't want to, a group 2 operator will make 35, 40 bucks an hour as an employee. So, hiring someone like that to come in and work for your city it makes more sense to hire someone on a contract basis. And of course, I've known Scott for a long time, so I was comfortable. I have to be comfortable with the person I'm signing for. Basically, I'm signing my name as the day-to-day overseer of the plant and its operations. Dylan wanted a bare bones price because of, financial position that the city was in. So I said, okay, you're basically getting my license, and I wasn't doing really much of anything else. I'm always on call 24/7 if there's a problem, because I'm in charge. Scott's very capable of running the plant. He's probably more knowledgeable about this specific plant than I am, even though I'm a higher licensed operator. But that's what we agreed on. And then Dylan was still struggling to complete the DMRs in a timely fashion. So I was like, okay, I need to take this over. So I took that part of it on as well. And that's basically what you guys are getting. You're getting my license, and I'm doing the DMRs. I do the biosolids report. I do various other reports throughout the year. The DMRs on a monthly basis. And then, of course, I'm always, there. If there were a problem, I could come out on an hourly rate. But the base rate you pay me is just for the basics. I think Department of Health, Ecology, if they had their way, they would have me coming out here like 2 or 3 times a week, and you guys would be paying me like $5,000 a month. But it's really not realistic. The plant is very self-sufficient. Scott knows what he's doing. He does a good job at it. I see the lab results. They come into my lab and I see them, and it's always performing well. So despite what they would have you think about the need for someone to be out here babysitting it, it's really not it doesn't need as much babysitting as they would lead you to believe, they being the Department of Ecology. So we struggle and butt heads a little bit on that as a contract operator, but you guys you don't need to spend the money I'd love to make a bunch of money, but
I think too, as a point of
it's just not realistic for either party, really.
as a point of clarification, we had a meeting a few years ago with all of us. Peter might have been here. as well as Scott and Casey and the DOE folks, and I think we budgeted, so we budgeted for double of what we pay her for the need in case it comes up where she has to be here. I think our contract is like once a month. Obviously Scott visits with her every week when he takes the samples, but our budget is set up so we have it, not say fully, if it was she had to be
Like,
here.
there was an emergency and they said, okay, you need to go out there. Or I've had situations arise where, things would get dumped down the manholes or something and it would cause an upset at the plant. But the plant here is just, it runs itself. To a certain degree, it's very self-sufficient. It works really well. Like I said, Scott is competent at his job that he's doing out there. So it's just, unless there's emergency, it's just really not necessary for me to be out here more than that.
Could you give us kind of a quick rundown on what happens maybe on a weekly or on a monthly basis, just as far as samples? What samples go, how often are they? Just kind of run us through that so that we have a little bit
Yeah.
better idea of what happens, what comes out of the plant down here, and what Scott's doing to
Right.
provide you with your information.
So Scott will do daily rounds. He keeps very detailed notes about that, which he brings to me once a month. We have weekly samples of our influent and our effluent and our manhole, SM2 is known. And then once a month, we do the monitor wells for checking on those. And then there's some quarterly sampling that gets done and some monthly sampling as well. But it is a weekly test that gets done. And then I do like monthly DMRs, which is our monitoring report that gets submitted to the state. That's the one that has to be in by the 15th. And then we have quarterly reports and yearly reports as well that get submitted. Biosolids, permits, and other miscellaneous things like that. Waste load assessment possibly. It depends. Sometimes you have a report in a 5-year cycle. Sometimes you have one in a 3-year cycle. So, but the consistent ones are the monthly discharge monitoring reports.
And does Scott provide the samples, and then that's what you get your information from?
Yes, he provides the samples, the flow data. He's taking pH readings. He's taking temperature readings, depth and gallons. Yep, dissolved oxygen. I'm trying to think what else is on that sheet. We built a 3-page spreadsheet that he fills in and brings to me every month with all the data in it.
Gotcha.
And then for our permit, sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Go.
Oh, so for our permit, like we have, say like a schedule, like every 3 years or something that's due, or are you two monitoring that?
Yes.
Okay.
I monitor that on my own. Scott doesn't have access to our Secure Access Washington account. Nobody else has access to that but me, so I keep track of.
You're our operator. I mean,
signer,
on
I have
chart.
signatory authority from the mayor, whoever signed it, which I was gonna have somebody else sign it tonight. I don't know.
We have an acting
We're kind of
mayor.
in limbo, I guess.
We have an acting mayor, so he can.
Because I don't remember who the last person that signed it was. I did bring an extra copy. But every time we get a new mayor, you have to grant me the signatory authority. So I don't know if you want to sign that really quick before I go, but something maybe we need to
Yeah, we should definitely look
visit.
at it.
But, yeah, I keep track of that, and
Question, if I may.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken samples, or has that always been Scott's responsibility, Casey?
if I've been out here, I've taken samples, but it's Scott's responsibility.
I presume in your course of your conversation with Nathan, you learned what the council's concern is. We've been fined to the extent of an additional $5,000, and we are exploring what happened, why that occurred, and
Yes,
whose
I'm aware.
responsibility it was to get those reports in.
Yeah.
Did you ever have responsibility for taking water samples?
The fine has nothing to do with water samples. The fine has
Getting the
to,
reports in? Excuse me for interrupting, but the reports have to be submitted predicated on the
Correct.
DMR samples.
that is correct. So apparently Dylan had entered into an agreement with the Department of Ecology to, I guess it was for 2 years. I wasn't aware that he had entered into that agreement. I'm not sure that anyone was.
I don't
You
think
guys
you'd been
might have
hired at that point, had you?
I had been, but I wasn't doing the DMRs at that time. Actually, he was still quite behind on his paperwork, and even he, and I'm not here to like throw anybody under the bus or, you know, talk about
Sure.
Dylan. He's not here to defend himself or anything else. It's just the facts. He was behind on his DMRs when I took over. 6 months went by. He was still struggling to do that. And I said, look, if I'm going to keep signing, you have to give me the DMRs because they have to be done on time. Now, I did not know that he had entered into this 2-year agreement. So time went by, and they give you a copy and paste spreadsheet. And I'm going to like give you guys the Cliffs Notes on DMRs. You have to go on a website and you fill these boxes in, and it's very finicky. It's a government built website, so it's obviously
Never works right.
going to be messed up. You fill it, they give you a spreadsheet, and you fill that in, and then you can copy and paste onto their template. And they did not give me the spreadsheet. I had been asking them since August 21st. We had gone for a long time without any late DMRs. And then I had been asking them since August 21st, which I have all the emails.
Of what year? 2019?
This was the one that was like the catalyst, is the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will.
August 2019, I believe.
Yes. So she sent me the wrong form, and it would not match up. I was having a lot of trouble uploading the data, which I had been doing in plenty of time for it to be on time. And I had uploaded it, and the data was giving me a bunch of error messages and corruption, and they basically drug their feet and didn't get me the correct copy-paste spreadsheet. So I had to go out of town. I was catching a plane, and that was that. So yes, the DMR was 1 day late because they didn't get me the data. I feel that they did it on purpose.
You feel they did?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay.
I also think that there was a point in time when you could have appealed the fine.
You here to pick me up?
Hi, Kelly.
Hello,
Welcome,
thank you.
Assistant Sheriff Kelly Watkins. Good to have you here.
So I do feel like there is a point in time when you could have appealed the fine, but I don't know if there's anything that can be done about it now.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Yeah.
The information you've provided so far has been very helpful. Just for your information, some of us feel that we still have grounds for contesting this late fine. And the information you provided, and perhaps other information that you may have, could be very useful in convincing the Office of the Attorney General.
I think that you should.
I think we should
you,
too.
I mean, if you feel like, I said that from day one, it's a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
And there's enough, I have the email chain where I'd been asking for the proper paperwork. You know, the problem with the DOE is that they kind of like walk in this gray area. So they'll say, well, it was still your responsibility to upload, you know, it's still your responsibility. You could have hand entered the data. Well, it's really not that simple. They say that, but the form is extremely complicated, and I honestly don't know anyone that's ever hand entered data into that form. And of course, you guys don't know what I'm talking about, you know, because you haven't seen it, but it's not just as easy as hand entering. Everything has to line up absolutely perfectly, or it gives you violations, and
So it's a formatting
not
issue
realistic
almost?
for them to
So-
say that.
So I remember you and I talked last summer when this happened, or right after it happened, and when I talked to the DOE, the same thing, like I was like, hey, this is one deal. And he's like, no, actually there's 10 deals. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so there's 3 other things that are on this list that we've been distributed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nathan.
You have a
provided-
copy in there somewhere?
You know, operator logs in February, June, and August, right?
And I don't understand why they don't have those, because what happens when I upload the data is I send a copy, Stark has all the operator logs,
One with the bullet
so,
point.
you know, it's as easy as them saying, hey, your operator log's on here. You know, it's,
And like you said, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back in their eyes, because I didn't know that we had all these other, say, violations, if you
well,
will.
apparently a lot of them, except for the one that happened to me, was Dylan's stuff. And we didn't know about that. I mean, I did know that he was behind, but I didn't know that he was
Right.
okay. If you ever do this, I mean, you guys could have paid me $1,000 to stay home and do it. You know what I mean?
You weren't aware of that contract,
Exactly,
that,
and I
or
would
not a
not
contract, but that agreement that was
yeah,
entered into.
if I would have known that,
And if you council will look on here, so on our, so the operator log in July of 18, and then 2 Julys, the monthly and the quarterly DMRs. So that was a period that when Dylan had resigned.
Scott didn't even start keeping operator logs until October of 2018.
Right, but our,
That's when we started doing
but our
that,
permit-
because we didn't even know that
Right.
that was supposed to be taking place.
but I think our permit, and I don't know it, but I think our permit requires it.
It's
And
not a
the-
permit, it was an executive order that.
Well, the agreement that was put into
Right,
place.
and we didn't know about the agreement.
We didn't, right, but the city, somebody at the city officially did.
You
And that's
and I and Scott didn't know about it.
Sure, or anybody, I mean, and that's where the challenge is with going forward, some of the stuff, we don't, you know, and the person isn't here that agreed to that, we, you know, and there's also that gap, so we didn't have a mayor, I wasn't appointed the mayor until October of 18. And so, there's July, August, and September, those are the 3 months the city didn't have, I was the mayor pro tem, so I was the acting mayor during that time, but, I mean, those are things, I mean, so we have a gap where the previous mayor left and then we didn't have any.
Disconnect the
Yeah,
communication
yeah,
too.
there's a disconnect. We didn't have that, we didn't know what that information was. So, from a city's perspective, that's what, I mean, those are gaps, whether they're not, I mean, the city ultimately was still responsible, and the city failed to communicate with itself. Whether that was with the maintenance operator, the maintenance supervisor, with the mayor that had resigned, with the acting mayor, with the previous clerk. I mean, there would, I mean, it was the left hand didn't know what the right hand didn't even, I mean, so, but the city ultimately carries that burden, is what I guarantee is what they're gonna argue.
Exactly, and this is what I'm talking about this gray area. They're gonna say, well, you guys, you know, you should have known and you should have done all this, but, you know, if you look at the fines that they've handed out, and it's all public record, and I'm sure I sent you a link, or someone a link.
I've seen
I know
it.
that
I've
I've
seen
sent
it.
somebody a link, to where you can look at all the fines that they've handed out, and there's nothing like this. I mean, they'll hand out $1,500 fines for like chemical spills and stuff, you know, and then all of a sudden they come along and do $5,000 for a piece of paper being 1 day. You know,
Well,
or two,
but you remember though,
it doesn't make sense
before
and
that,
it's
so
not
we had a
proportional.
previous fine about 15 years ago for not filing DMRs. So we had, and that's why we have Ecology Park. Before, I mean, if any of us, I don't even know if any of us were here on the current council. And then we went 15 months without filing a DMR.
Yeah,
That was before your time.
right.
But that's where they're like, what the heck, right? I mean, so that's what started the initial $10,000 fine, was 15 months of not filing anything. And so again, that's why the heavy hand, because we already had a previous decades old, you know, they're holding us to a different standard
Snowballing.
because of something way back when, which, you know, which we appealed, and we got, instead of paying, I think we didn't have to pay a fine. The fine was Ecology Park. We created Ecology Park. That was our penance.
Mitigated the fine.
Or mitigated it with that. So that's why I think the heavy hand, and that's just my like, it's the culmination of
Yeah.
15 months prior to this. That's what created the $10,000 fine and the executive order and the agreement that was put in place.
Right, right.
So, but go ahead, Peter.
I'd like to suspend this for just a moment. We have another attendee, another guest.
Esteemed guest.
Undersheriff Kelly Watkins to
I
be
got him
added to the
already.
list. You got him already. But it occurred to me that he may have pressing business that we're not aware of.
No, I just happened
Just
to
to-
see that you guys were here and thought I'd stop in. and-
Oh, good. Social call, more or less.
Exactly.
I've got a
just
chair over here for
Thought
you.
we might be keeping you from impressing business,
No, no,
Kelly,
no,
and,
no. Yeah.
okay, thanks for coming.
I had a quick question about the topic that we're on right now. I don't know if it was answered, but the time that I was on the council, and I didn't hear it answered tonight, so maybe some clarification, that you referenced the August 2019, before you went on vacation, that you couldn't get the DMR uploaded because of something that they were dragging their feet with, some type of template.
Correct.
So, how were you able to upload all the ones before that?
Because every year they give me a new template.
But that was in
We
August.
had gotten a new permit, and so they had to give me a new template for the new permit.
So then, to get that one filed after it was late, they just got it to you right at. Let's just see.
And she sent it to me like,
Like it was just magically there.
yeah, she sent it to me at like 4:59 on, Friday or whatever. And then I wasn't back to my computer until Monday, and that's when I did it. So,
This is, I'd like to go back to getting all of this documented. Would you be willing to provide to the council a detailed statement?
absolutely. Yes.
Just a chronological statement of not only the facts, but your impressions and your
Yes.
subjective input could be crucially important. $5,000 fine we could recover from, but we'd rather not be exposed to it. We've already paid it. We'd like to get that money back, and I think, most of all, based on what you've said,
Yeah,
Casey, we would be most grateful if you would do that.
yeah. Yeah, I've already said that I would do that.
Excellent.
So,
I was not aware of that.
It's hard because I did file the report late, I guess I could have stayed home and done
Missed
it,
your plane.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do when you're between a rock and a hard place, And like I said, I wasn't aware of how crucial. I was like, whatever, one day.
With
You know
that,
what I
You're
mean?
not aware of the agreement we had.
Exactly,
with
I
the
wasn't aware of the agreement.
AG.
I knew that there had been issues in the past. I did know that. But I didn't know that if you do anything, you are absolutely, done.
We were on double secret probation.
Double secret probation.
Exactly.
The
yes,
secret being
and-
important.
So two things though. One is, do you work? So two things. I think you know as well as I do, dealing with those guys, that they're still going to say, you
That's
have
our responsibility.
our responsibility, and like Scott is our group one. So that's kind of think about that. But then, do you have any other? I know you service several municipalities. Do you have any other municipalities that have a group one, like a boots on the ground person, besides? I mean, that's out there providing that. And then, does that person, if you do they have knowledge of how to file DMRs if you're not able to?
No.
So
I have people that work at the other facilities.
yeah,
If they had group twos, they wouldn't need me.
no, but
But they don't do any kind of paperwork at all. They work at the plant and I do all the,
Do you have to be a group 2 to file a DMR?
No, you do not.
Okay.
I
There's just
teach-
other things there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, anybody can learn how to do it. So
Okay.
it's as much as punching the data into, knowing what the data means is one thing, but putting it in and uploading it, yeah, it's a non-issue. It's a couple hours a month, to get it all in there, but.
and Scott so prior to Dylan coming on, was it Paul that filed our DMRs for us, or did you work with him on that?
I filed some.
But they were also the paper copies. They
paper
were not
copy, they were
electronic.
Right, it was a different version.
Yeah, so they've weaned everybody off the paper DMRs and moved them to.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you were filling in a paper DMR, you're like, you guys, I can't get to it. Somebody else scratch these numbers on there and it'd be no issue. But I have to have signatory authority, you have to set up a secure access Washington account, like, it's not something that you just do in 5 minutes, you know?
So is it also though, I mean, does it prudent now, knowing what we know, like hindsight's 20/20, but going forward, that we have Scott know how to do that as a backup, so that if you're not able to, or there's any kind of emergency, like
Absolutely.
to have that,
He
so
could, you know, any of you could, anybody. I could teach you.
right. But
anybody.
I think though for the most of us, and that's what Scott and I had this conversation day one, because I knew Dylan had attempted to do that, and I talked to Scott and said I'm not a wastewater treatment plant person,
Right.
and so and my original thought was I assumed that Scott was the person in charge of that, just because of he's a public maintenance supervisor, that he's got the water and the wastewater, licenses. Janice is one. Clerk is one thing, but I think again, any of us that aren't technical like that, if they have questions.
There's
Scott.
other clerks that I know that have, like, town of Endicott, their clerk does theirs,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I just think that
And she just puts the data in, and then somebody else comes along and hits their signatory,
yeah.
authority in there.
I just think going forward, that's going to would be prudent for us to have somebody else know the system in case our Group 2 person is not available.
But
I
For
used to
I was
fill out
going to-
DMRs before, and I did do some electronic ones,
absolutely.
but that form has like tripled in size
What if he's on
and
vacation
complication with every permit.
or sick?
It's a totally different deal. It was one-page thing, we entered a few numbers, and it was fine. You sent it in, and now it's a 3-page deal.
But if she has other people, whether it's the operator or clerk or anyone that can do it, I support Justin's thought process on having at least how to do it. Maybe not. Maybe also even Janice, so that there's a backup. To make sure that this doesn't happen at all again. There's no more late DMRs. Period. If Casey can't get to it, Scott, can you do it? No, I'm on vacation. Okay.
Just for clarification and for the record, I would like to establish tonight who has primary responsibility for collecting the data and getting the DMRs in.
I do.
Those may be two separate functions, collecting the samples.
Scott has the authority. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or Scott is the one that collects the samples,
Correct.
and you're the person that files it.
Yep, he brings me all the data.
So it is a two-part. To Peter's,
Correct.
it's a two-part function.
Okay.
I collected the samples and a lot of the data. When she puts it in the form, it correlates the data.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, some of it has to be calculated. The spreadsheet will calculate it for you, so you have to convert like your gallons and then how much like solids you have. You have to convert that to pounds per day. The spreadsheet does it for you automatically. This is what I'm saying about like them saying you could hand enter the data. I'd be doing all these calculations by hand, and you're talking about hours worth of work without that tool they provide you.
They're submitted electronically now
Mm-hmm.
over the internet.
Yes, and they don't allow you to submit them by paper
at all.
at all. No.
I would
Have to be
propose
submitted
that
electronically.
the city should arrange to have a backup for both parties, so if one is unable to perform a function, word gets to his deputy, his backup, and,
And we can do that.
We can absolutely do that. It would be training involved, you
Yeah.
know, but it can be done. I would gladly pass off anything. I'm not even really getting paid to do it, like I said, when I agreed to do the job, he said, well, I want the bare bones, I just want to use your license, and you just signed it. Okay, fine. And then it was like,
more and more.
yeah, and it's fine. I'm not complaining, I'm just stating the facts that,
Well, we're grateful for your service, Casey. You-
and
Done a
I
good job.
feel really bad about, believe me, I had no idea that it would, I was floored when I read that. I was floored because I just couldn't believe that.
Well, again, I think that in my conversation with those people, when I talked to the compliance person, the new guy, that's come out and visited.
Right.
You know, I said I thought it was one deal. That's what I said. It's pretty heavy-handed for one. And he said, it's not one deal. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then he started going back to 2018, which
Right.
I didn't realize. And I was like,
Right.
I thought bygones were bygones. He said, well, no, you have this 2-year, you guys promised for 2 years you were going to be, you know, tipped, you know, you're going to walk.
Well, somebody else promised for me,
Yeah.
but okay.
Right, but the ecology doesn't look at us that way. They say we're the city.
Right.
And so that's the challenge. And I mean, that's the only thing that I think that, in talking to them and proposing that when I talked to the previous clerk about this and we were going through it, like, about paying the fine, it was just like, let's just, I mean, there's some facts here. We can't deny that we didn't do these. There's some special circumstances, but in the Department of Ecology's eyes, we're still one. They don't care that
I know.
there's
I agree
been
with you.
a carousel of elected officials and things through here. So that's the challenge. And I mean, and you know too, they don't like us, the agreement we have with you. They don't like that.
I know.
They want you here every week, probably every day.
I know.
And
They do.
and they know that you're, I mean,
They want me to go out there and kick sand and
but they
walk
know
around
you,
and
but they know you
charge me much
service,
money.
you know, several municipalities, that you're a contract operator that does that, you know, and so,
And they've tried to, you know, say that I have to do all these things, and they're really out of line on it. I mean, I don't know.
but for us, we just don't, you know, we're a small municipality. We don't have
Yeah.
the fighting power to
Yeah.
really go up against them, and it's
I think
a,
there's a lot of towns that feel that way. I'm not certainly going to name any, but I know that a few that are like, if I could just get somebody else to go against me and you know, go with me, and but yeah, I mean, who wants to fight the government? Nobody.
right.
So a lot of times they're just like, we're just going to pay it and go. But I do think that you have a leg to stand on for appeal if that's the route you want to go. I think you have enough in your corner that a reasonable person would look at this and go, yeah, maybe this isn't, you know, this isn't right.
Yeah.
However, you've already paid it. Getting your money back, good luck. You know,
I'm more optimistic than you are.
I
It's an election year.
think that that's great, and you know, I would
Could
be
have
like,
battled with Bob.
if it happened, I really would, because I don't think that they should have been paid at all in the first place. But that was just my
Well,
opinion. You know,
You're in a good position. Do we have a consensus around the table that we would like to have Casey write a letter or detailed analysis of her
I'll certainly
experience?
share
her
what
view?
happened, and you know, whether or not you want to take it and do something with it, then you know that's your prerogative. But
And feel free to either put your subjective views on each matter in your statement or hand them to us separately so we're aware of
yeah,
your views on the various points that you make in your letter.
yeah.
That would be very useful.
I see the way that ecology treats a lot of towns, and I don't like it.
Uh-huh, good.
I have no problem. I used to be kind of like critical of them, but now I'm just like,
You know,
yeah, kind of. I mean, I hate to say that. It's not like I want to, you know, be at war with anybody, but there is several people down there that are very out of line in their behaviors. And I've been doing this since 2001. So I've been there longer than they have, and I've seen the turnover in the personnel, and I've seen the way that people used to be, and the way that these certain people are, and it's not a secret that they're not, they abuse their powers, let's put it that way.
Your presence has been very useful here tonight.
Yeah, thank you again for
Thank
making
you.
the trip.
Thank you very much for making the effort.
Is it gonna include those emails?
Yeah, that's why I saved them.
Pardon?
I was like,
I asked Greg.
Yeah, well, that's, I just finally
response
called. I
to
said,
include
can you
the
just
email
come
Gina
down here and
spoke
explain this
of.
to us?
Yeah, no kidding.
Email exchange,
yeah, I'll send you all the emails that I had back and forth with them.
That would
To where
be
I said, this is wrong, it's not matching up,
Because that's where the evidence is.
I'm leaving this day, I need to get this DMR file, you need to get me this so I can do it.
one
I
other
just do
question
it
if I
here.
may. Would you be willing to
But I
have one or
wouldn't go
more
in
council
depth.
members come to AAA Labs and see the process so we have a better idea, a better understanding of how you do things?
You mean when
Is
I
that-
do the DMRs?
Yeah,
We could do that, or I could come down here and
show us the
do one.
forms.
It'd probably be better for me to come here and enter the data and do all that, because then several people can, it does take several hours. And if you have hit a glitch or something, then it's even longer, but, yeah, I mean, I could walk you
Could be
through the
very
process.
useful.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
Do
Good.
you have the copy paste form still? You have all that stuff on the computer, right?
No, not yet.
But you could show them what it looks like. And
They've changed the format
So-
4 times since I've had the copy and paste.
For council members Davenport and Luck, you guys submitted this, these three pages of documents. Did the stuff we just talked about cover this, or do we need to
Absolutely.
go through? Is there more?
Covered it very well.
These were,
You guys talked, it looks like you talked to both, you talked to AWC, you talked to Dylan, the former mayor, Dylan Haas, and you also talked to Bunny, the former city clerk, Bunny Haugen. And you guys have information you got here as well. So I think getting, Peter's suggestion of getting the information from Casey, and I'm not opposed to, and I have no opposition of following up, or as a group or collectively as a council, the city following up with the ecology and or the Attorney General's office.
the Pollution Control Board is the one that oversees the Department of Ecology, and those are the ones that you need to go file the complaint with.
Right, but
We're dealing with
we
the
found
AG.
last time is the Attorney General office, because once the fine goes through, the AG is the one, because this permit issue, because the fine was stayed before, the AG's office is the one that is how I understood it in talking to Ecology. They're the ones that came back to Ecology and said, oh, it looks like these guys haven't met their permit. Do we need to follow up again? So it wasn't with Ecology anymore. Ecology was like the vehicle. AG was the one that was driving the bus.
I think you're getting the runaround on that.
Yeah.
Saying-
I have the
I think that's,
court documents from that.
and it does, yes, they get them to sign it,
Attorneys General.
but for them to sit there and say, we have nothing to do with this. No, I'm sorry, they recommend who gets the fines, and they sign it. So if they didn't think that if they had a problem with the fine, they would have never signed their name to it. And they is Adrian, the person that's in charge down at the Department of Ecology. So if you sign your name to something, then I guess that you support it wholeheartedly. It wasn't the Attorney General that handed down the fine, it's Ecology that handed down the fine.
But AG was the one that handed down the fine because we were out of compliance with the previous fine that they waived.
I donated them to.
They waived
Oh, thank you very much.
the
In my
agreement.
opinion,
A whole
it
lot.
came from Ecology. And I think that if you research that, I'm not arguing with you, but I'm saying maybe dig a little deeper on that and see, because I really think that Ecology has more clout than they would like to let on. It's always a scapegoat. It's like, oh, well,
Both gray
it's out of our
and
hands.
But even
And
when
that's a bunch
the
of-
very first fine we had, I remember Dylan had to go, he didn't appeal to Ecology, he had to appeal to the AG's office, and he talked to those people, because that's who this was levied, like that's where the levy came down from, was from the AG's office. And so they were the ones that were handled it the entire time. Now, the recommendation came from Ecology, but again, maybe it's a government function of how they do that, and they have like separations of these things so they can.
Well, the Pollution Control Board certainly is the one that handles the appeal. And they are the ones that also make sure that Ecology is not overstepping their bounds.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think
So
we can.
I don't know, I think that I think if you dug in a little bit, and I'll try to do some research too, as much as I can, but,
Okay. Well, then we'll have maybe Nathan and Peter follow up with this information and we can see where it leads us
Yeah,
to
you bet.
and get that information. Also, the information here, I think is kind of pertinent. The information you guys found from your discussions with these folks.
I think even if a complaint was filed, that would be, even if nothing comes of it, at least it's on the record that, we're saying, hey, this isn't cool, because somebody needs to step up and do it, and we've already paid them, so screw it. Let's just,
But like you said earlier, it's hard to sue the government
it is.
because no matter what, we can pay an attorney, we can pay Joshua Grant, our attorney, 150 an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah,
60
exactly.
now.
160.
Oh, 160, yeah. Okay, 100,
Yeah, so
some-
it's
100
easier
something.
just to be like, we're gonna write the check and we're just gonna,
And maybe it's a matter of principle, and that's fine. I mean, from a council's perspective, I knew the clock before was ticking with that fine.
Deadline on it.
And even talking to Ecology, what we couldn't have, we didn't, if we wanted to appeal, it wasn't to Ecology, it was gonna be to AG's office. So I think we can get this more information and we can continue to assess, Peter, does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know. I wrote him a nasty email.
Say the last line again?
we'll continue to
Continue
get
the
this information
discussion,
and then continue to assess it,
Yeah.
not but just
I don't
continue.
think we have a deadline for requesting our money back from the AG, but in my view, Casey, based on what you've told us here tonight, you could be a linchpin to all of this, and we'd like to stay in touch with you on this until we have resolved it with the AG's
I wish
office.
something would happen.
And most of all, get deputies or backups for you and Scott, so we're sure not to bump into this problem again.
Okay,
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
yeah.
And I'm, always phone call, so, you know.
One thing I noticed on here, was the approval of bills. It's not on the agenda that we need to add as well, and we probably should do that now.
Are they letting me go? You guys have anything else you want to ask me?
Oh, do you want to
or-
look at that paperwork
Okay.
for her real quick?
Yeah, do you have that extra
Be safe
copy?
driving home.
Do you have that extra copy of the signature form that you'd spoke about, that when there's a new mayor, do you have a copy with you, you said?
I do. So actually, I'll grab it out of my car. It'll take a few minutes to fill in, and then I'll just hand it to you, and you can sign it. And then I take it back with me, and because I have to put it with some other forms I have. I just had them do one in Wilbur because they got an email too. So I'll fill it out really quick, and I'll just hand it to you, and you can sign it, and I'll be on my way.
Okay.
Wilbur just
Maybe
got a new
we'll
mayor
look at
too.
it.
I know.
So you guys will notice this is a little bit different than our previous bills document. This is a report that the clerk pulled out of the new software. It's separated between paid and unpaid claims, the ones that will be signed tonight or that we paid tomorrow or had already been signed after we approve them. The other thing you'll notice is they're not broken down here into each
Separate.
account.
Okay.
Now, in bias, they are. They're, if say any of these salaries here, or if we had a bill, and we split it up, it would be coded to each of those funds.
Okay.
Whether it's garbage, water, sewer, or street, or current expense, or cemetery. But here, it's just and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just it's the full amount.
Okay.
So that's a little bit different, and then we'll have to
I
sign.
could have printed it out that way, but it's just a lot of information for you guys to look through. So there's a breakdown on the very bottom of the sheet that shows how much for each fund.
Okay.
And that's what the thought behind getting the bills ahead of time too, if we want to look at
Right.
each.
And
each
then
one.
the other thing
Scanners
that's
down.
different here is,
Scanners, and I couldn't get it, so I couldn't get it.
the other thing we have is, we'll just sign twice. We'll sign because there's multiple pages or whatever.
Okay.
So that's the difference here.
When you said they weren't broken down, were you alluding to this sheet?
Yeah, both of them. So here, you'll notice like a salary. This is the entire, or like this one
gonna
here.
fill in.
Here's the entire salary
I gotta
for
look up the
this person for the entire month.
Mm-hmm.
Before, it used to be, it would be broken down into cemetery.
Different sections,
Yes.
second
Yes,
rows.
so now it's just the bulk salary.
Yeah, I
But
got it.
inside bias, it's separated.
I didn't know whether you were alluding to this
Well,
and/or
Your
the...
Both of them
And then I'll
Okay.
will be the same.
scan it in and email it to you guys. So you have a copy of
But
it.
if you guys prefer, I can
Predicated.
I can do it the other way.
So like a Vista here.
Yeah.
You gotta
A
print your
Vista is a
name, and
check
then
for
you gotta put the city of
$4,800.
Huntington, And then you gotta sign that.
Well, remember, it would be broken down into street lights.
Office.
Yes, but here it's just one bulk thing, how it's presented to us, but inside,
We wanted to have.
and that's what she's saying here, this next page, or this is where the actual breakdown for each fund are, not by person, just by the funds, the total of
We
each
have a
fund.
SAW account.
Michael,
And then we
But-
have to upload the DMRs onto it.
Okay. And then the fifth one's a spare.
in my desk.
Okay. I was just curious about
I
that.
only did it this way to see what you guys preferred. The last meeting or this way. I can do them either way.
I like to see itemized,
The way I did it last time.
yeah.
Or you can also try the way you talked about it here. The beauty of this is she just hits print in the report, that's the easy button, and this just comes out automatically. There's no, like, no recreation of everything. Now, there's a different
I'm
format
sure
she
we'll
says
be-
she has that actually will be multiple pages, but it will break everything down like we're used to seeing, and she can also do that for each of the funds, like specifically where these things go. So it'll look somewhat similar to what it used to be.
If you have time, Peter, you can come in and I can show you.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
So maybe next time too, if it's, try to get, run the other report when it's all broken out too, so we can just see, what the difference is.
Sure.
But we know that this looks differently, but inside of bias, it's all broken out.
yes, it is. Because when I enter in those things, each AP, I have to break them down when I enter them into the computer.
And the other thing, the kind of cool thing is these all have individual bars codes,
Okay.
which we don't see here, but that's then to later for like our budget process, and then we do our annual report, it's already coded
Okay.
into those correct.
It's already taking that money out of those funds automatically every
Okay.
time I put something in there.
I see an entry here for Bias Software, $395. Is that a monthly
No.
payment? What's that for?
That
Is that the
is-
printer?
That is the conference that I'll be going to.
It's called a bias rally, so they have an annual conference,
I see.
and so that's what that is for.
And AWC
And that goes
refunds.
to whom? Reimburses you?
No.
Well,
Well,
yeah, she's going to attend the
yes,
conference.
I'm going to the conference, but
Okay.
AWC will refund 50% of that one.
I see. Thank you.
Notary's
I
expensive.
move that the bills be accepted as presented.
All right, a motion by Councilmember Davenport,
Second.
seconded by Schenk. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, passes 4-0. Thank you, council. And then Janice, we'll just need you to send out whatever copy you want us to sign. So we have those. Okay, next on our agenda is the plan for hiring the maintenance worker. So as you guys know, there was a letter that went out. There's a pen if you want. Former Councilmember McClellan sent out an email to us for a job posting. The posting is in, I think, several newspapers. We have three applications.
4 applications.
So we've received 4 applications. The application period, though, doesn't end until the 21st of February.
Okay.
So next Friday, another week and a half from now. We'll just have to decide what we want to do at that time. On hiring them, I think, obviously is, Councilmember Luck is the acting mayor. He can kind of direct that process as he sees fit. He can work with Scott. He can work with any of our council members to do that. But I guess just it was on the agenda kind of just so we knew, and if any of the folks any of the council members wanted to be a part of that process.
Okay.
Now that we have a new acting mayor, that we can reach out to him. You want to do that too when you're done. Do that. So just know that we have another week and a half. Excuse me, I saw it again today. It ran in today's advertiser. So I'm sure it'll be getting Davenport and the Odessa papers. So we'll go there. Next on here is the plan for hiring a meter reader. So if you guys recall, our meter reader had, at the end of last year, our meter readers run from, it's May till October. And so at the end of October, she had submitted her letter of resignation. And so I think that similar with these other positions, this maintenance worker, we'll just want to probably start
Okay.
the process now so we can have somebody in place by May. I mean, we probably want to start, it's a part-time temporary position that we want to probably get those, I don't know if there is
I think we should look into that one as well.
if there is a job description, but we could probably also reach out to the prior person that did it and ask her if we don't have it, so.
Just out of curiosity on that,
Yeah.
Scott, how many hours a month does that person usually put in?
She reads 3 days, pretty much 3 days.
Okay.
A partial day on the third day, so it's probably 2.5 days a month.
Okay.
Like maybe 20 hours.
20 hours? Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
And A-Vista is installing so-called smart meters.
In our house.
Just for
That's for
just
their,
gas.
that's for their electricity and gas.
Yeah.
Not for our water. This is for the water meter reader.
Meter readers don't read for A-Vista then.
They have their own.
They do right now,
see.
but it's their own, yeah, they come out and check it. I've seen the Avista guys on my property.
You've already done yours? Or just a meter reader?
No, the meter reader
Oh,
person.
I was gonna say,
No,
geez.
no, I mean in
Not
time, like,
supposed to start till March 1st. Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
so, anyway, heads up there, okay? There's your bills. All right. Oops. All right, next thing on the list was just a point of, for a discussion for, here it says fact-checking newspaper articles. Obviously, after the last council meeting, there was a newspaper article submitted to the Odessa Record, and then I think potentially the Davenport paper had a different article, but I know in previous times, in talking to the former clerk, she used to, I don't know when she stopped, but she used to like check those, or not say proofread them, but at some point, and then I don't know at what point that stopped, but I think there was several pieces of misinformation that went out in that last article that weren't just, either that's how they were interpreted or whatnot. So I don't know. I'm not opposed to freedom of press, and if they want to paint the city in a bad light, it's challenging when it's a city employee who writes the article that way. But I think if we can have either it go to the clerk or go to a council member, just to make sure that the facts are facts.
Okay.
I don't.
Actually, that did take place in this last round. I had a hand in the preparation of the article for the Odessa paper anyway. And comparing what was submitted to them versus what was published is like the difference between night and day. So there were some changes made in the newspaper. I'm satisfied that I didn't realize that.
No, the changes were made in the Davenport paper,
Yeah.
not in the Odessa paper.
Okay. I didn't know, I haven't read both articles, so I couldn't compare the two, but
I just think if it's possible, I don't know why it quit before. Like, I don't know, this was middle of last year, and talking to the former clerk, that she had mentioned that those are things that she used to do, and I just think it's a way, again, I'm not anti, press or even bad press. I just think, we can get that information that's correct, just since people are involved. There were several people involved in that article, citizens, council members, city employees, and some of those people, they all have, it affects them personally. So, so just,
my impression is that most of the error, perhaps all of it, was caused in the newspaper offices, not by the original author of that.
okay,
Is it fair for me to ask anything?
sure.
Of course.
I guess I would be interested in knowing what facts you disagree with. If you could list those out for me, I would be happy to find them.
Yeah, I would,
Especially after I get a hold of a transcript of the
Sure.
actual.
I don't mind talking to you off the record. I just don't think I don't have a problem talking to you directly about it, and we can do that at any time.
Well, you're discussing it now, why,
Well, I'm talking to the council because the council it was out there, so I don't have any issue talking to you one-on-one about it at a different time, but it's not, a lot of that stuff is, again, personnel, it shouldn't have, most of the stuff that discussion happened around last time, we've since found out from AWC, which should never have been public comment. It's personnel related and personnel related matters.
And we tried to keep it that way.
That's true.
Then,
The previous, so the city can get themselves in trouble because personnel issues are out there.
Being addressed in public open forum.
Yeah. So, So, okay, next on here is junk cars. And originally, Levi had sent an email to the rest of the council asking about the process. Former Councilmember McClellan said she was going to follow up on that and do that. And talking with Janice, it didn't sound like that had happened, but Janice and Scott both had spoken to Johnson Family Towing, which we have a document in our, the second, it's an 8-page agreement with,
Scott did.
Okay, Scott.
All I did was email it to you.
Okay, so Scott had worked with Johnson Family Towing to do this, and so it sounds like they're up and going, and now we can just, if the city signs it, we can, after giving proper notice, if it, depending on the the circumstances, we can call Johnson Family Towing, and they can pick up the vehicle in question, and then there's no, we talked about this before, there's no cost to the city.
We just have to create a document that says Johnson's Family Towing has permission to tow this according to
Yeah, I just gotta do that.
whatever.
RCW section.
RCW.
Ordinance,
whatever we-
yeah.
Yeah, this document, I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it. I think it's maybe a standard one for these guys, but it's very detailed. It talks about all the specifics and what they need from us even. It says if they go forward, it says scope of services, contractor shall furnish all services at the specific request of the city in each instance, abandoned roadways in the vehicle, or abandoned vehicles in the roadway, disabled vehicles. But then it also says that what we have to do, and it says we have to provide them with a document every time that cites those things. So it's almost like a form. So this is the master agreement, and then we just, if it violates ordinance 319, junk cars, then we cite that we've sent letters, and then we get that to them, and then they take it over.
Is that for every vehicle we have to provide that, or is that a blanket?
Well, I think every
Instance,
Okay,
situation,
all right.
every situation.
All right.
If there's a situation we'll just use an example up by Olaf Street, where there's at least 3 or 4 vehicles on that belong to the same property owner, but that are outside, like, that's one instance, in my opinion, that we
Right.
would list all 4 of those vehicles if there's 3 or 4. But then if there's another property, then we have to say, here's a property on 3rd Street or on
Gotcha.
5th Street
Okay.
or wherever.
Does the owner of the vehicle get charged, do we know?
Yes, that's who pays.
Because there are companies, societies that advertise in newspapers looking for junk cars. Can we deal with them as well?
Well, it's up to the owner to actually do that, but, so, like in this instance last year, we sent a notice to the Olaf property, and they still haven't done anything. So the fact that we've given them opportunities to do it, and they haven't, including their own, if they want to put that with one of those services to, ultimately what happens if they don't get paid, and most of them don't get paid by the property owner, the tow truck company takes that to they auction it. They just, after a certain period of time, they just, that's how they get reimbursed. That's how they
They're
get paid.
them trying to recover their money for
Yeah.
I
services.
raised the question because we'd like to get rid of the vehicles, but I feel uncomfortable in contracting with a tow company if it's going to lead to a charge going to the original owner of the vehicle.
Well, but in that process to get those out of there, we have to allow them. We have to give them notice. They have a viable chance to do it with what they want with that vehicle before it goes here.
Mm-hmm.
This is our last resort. So if they don't do anything in between,
Yeah, because they've had how long to do that now?
I can't remember what
Months?
there's a certain amount of days.
Might I interject that we have a law officer here that maybe could shed some light on some of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Hope
don't know what
slips.
your town ordinance reads as far as having them on private property, but if there's a junk vehicle on the city property
Yeah.
or the right of way, yeah, we can deal with that. I mean, just call us and we'll tell them that, hey, it's a junk vehicle, it meets the criteria. And if they don't get rid of it, then we can get rid of it on behalf of the town. And we fill out a form that's a whole vehicle slip and give them a copy of it, and they have they have notice to remove it within 15 days, and if they don't remove it within 15 days, then we can do it.
Okay, that's different than what Scott has told us before, because we have several vehicles in the right of way, not even on private property, that are in the, either on.
And they're not, we had a deputy down and there was a frame sitting there and we covered that whole frame. We couldn't find a name or number or marking or,
Was this the one in Olaf?
yeah.
See, I was up there, I don't know, a month ago when Janet first started, or Janice, I'm sorry. And I did like 3 or 4 of them, and I saw that frame there, and there's nothing I can do with the frame because there's no markings on it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the frame was out on the road, on the edge of the road. And the next time Levi come down, he pushed it up on his property.
yeah, is that the son?
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah, so he got 3 or 4 whole vehicle slips for some of those vehicles up there to get rid of, and he had 15 days, to send notice to the registered owners of them. Some of them had registered owners, others didn't. And then he could take that document that I signed and he could go get a title for it, or he could take it to a whole vehicle, place
Junkyard.
and say, here you go.
how long ago was that?
When Janice started, a month ago, maybe?
On my own, or when I first started?
Was the first? No.
That was January 1st, the 2nd was our first official day as on our own.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Lenny was still here.
So that was in
So
December,
even
that was in
before that-
December.
December sometime.
Probably,
So I've had 15 days.
yeah.
He's probably had his 15 days. So.
Times.
But that was, him as a property owner wanted to get rid of them, because I drove by and I saw there was check marks on it, and I saw that he was there, and I said, hey, I can help you out. And he's like, okay. So I gave him the paperwork. But when it's on his own property, I can't, I can't impound it if it's not
Right, these are
licensed.
all 3 of these, or 4 of these vehicles are in the city right away.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, there's 60-foot street over there. And the one is, all of them are in the city right away.
2 of them are against the fence next to the Nutrien
Yep.
on the other side, and then there's 2 I'm aware of. I mean, there's several other vehicles up there that are probably on private property, but there's 2 other ones that are on the, is that
One's
Old
an
First?
cop car and the other one's that Subaru Brat.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's city ground,
Oh,
or,
it is?
yeah.
I did a whole vehicle slip on the Brat.
You didn't want the cop car? You guys already sold it once, you didn't want it back? All right, so we obviously have some
Fine.
some resources with Lincoln County Sheriff. Obviously, we pay them, that's part of our contract with them, so we can use that. This also has private services, so if there's obviously like an emergency, or if the city has some things, we, obviously these folks are in town, the Johnson family rents from us. They lease the building across the street. We haven't had somebody here. I know Scott has previously mentioned that there was somebody up in Ritzville that used to do some of this, and sometimes they're available, sometimes they're not. So I think having an agreement with Johnson Family Towing is a good thing for us to have. We've been talking about this, part of this agreement for them to take place. They just got their license with the State Patrol to do some of this.
Would this be good for private property?
It could be as well. I mean, there's different
with our
calls.
ordinances?
Yeah, that could be, like if it, that's what Deputy Watkins was saying too, like it isn't our ordinances, but we have several ordinances that say junk property. So we can say, you guys are violating ordinance 319, you have 30 days to abate. If you don't, then this would help us, again, giving them opportunities. It's an expense to them, but it's not like it's happening over, like it's not pulling something quick on them. It's, it's giving them plenty of opportunity to donate it, to do something with it, but there's several car farms here in town that, that need to be dealt with. And we've talked, this is my 5th year on the council, but every year on the council, since I've been here, this has been something we've talked about, junk cars. And haven't had really a mechanism to do anything. We worked on the ordinances, with Dylan did that, several of those ordinances. Now this is like the final step to be able to have an agreement with somebody as well. So,
So what's that under, like your nuisance ordinance?
Yeah.
or-
And then we also have an abandoned vehicle, those vehicles.
On private property?
car farms, yeah.
Yeah, but this is, we haven't progressed to the private property part of it yet. We're working on just vehicles that are in the right of way at this point. And all 4 of those vehicles are on city property.
Well, how wide the streets are, you'd be amazed,
60
or
foot,
wider,
80
you'd be amazed how many vehicles
End up in the right of way, even though they're in front of a property or they're in an alley.
Unbeknownst to the owners.
that could be the case in some spots. Oh, I really thought I owned from here back.
Rick opened my eyes about that.
Yeah.
They've been, I know for a fact that those people have been sent letters probably 3 different times, and they've never responded. If they get a certified letter, they just don't pick it up. That's not our responsibility.
So then, Deputy, or Undersheriff, I don't know what to call you. Sorry, thanks. Esteemed guest, Undersheriff. The 2 that you did are the Hulk stuff, the ones up there that the Brat and the old police car. So,
I didn't do the old police car.
okay, well, at least the Brat though.
Yep.
So are you responsible for, is the LCSO responsible?
So he led me to believe that was his property,
Nope.
and he
Oh.
wanted to get rid of it. So I said, here's a slip because it met the criteria under the RCW. And then he gets that, and then he can do with it what he wants. He can get the title in his own name, make it his own car, or he can go give it to whoever he wants. You know, he can give it to a Hulk vehicle, junkyard, whatever. It's his responsibility to get rid of it after he notifies the last registered owner of his intent to do that.
So it's now been, say,
15 days are gone.
right, so say it's been 6 weeks, he
Yep.
hasn't done anything.
So it's his responsibility to do whatever he wants with that car.
But-
Now that you're saying it's in the city's right of way, then there's a little different angle that you'd have to go.
Through LCSO?
Yeah, I'd like to, yeah, and I'll look into that. Yeah, if we can get rid of it on city property,
Okay,
I can certainly look into that.
yeah.
They're unlicensed. The 3 of the cars are, the Ford pickup it was complete at one point. I don't know if it still is.
It was Scott's at one point.
No.
The Bronco was, right?
The one Bronco was, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Dwayne.
We're not getting it. And the big old crusher, let me tell you.
I would
Dave's face.
caution you, I guess, to go on private property without looking at your ordinance.
Yeah,
Just having a tow truck come on private property and yanking cars out.
Sure.
Maybe it's something you should talk to the city attorney about before.
sure. I think though, that Scott mentioned, I mean, our biggest priority is just even the public right-of-ways
Right.
where we haven't had, either we haven't, we thought that we had this Hulk slip thing or, and again, they've had plenty of options and they've had certified letters to remove it and they still haven't done it. So, and there's several unlicensed or past registry, vehicles that are out of date that haven't been licensed for 2 or 3 years on city streets in various areas.
So,
Those are all ones that we would,
yeah, we can address those easily,
okay,
if you'd like.
yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Need a big lightning storm.
The other thing though with this too, I mean, we obviously direct them this is an agreement with them, but if they're, if somebody, it's within our city limits, it sets out their rates here, so if somebody they need to have it towed, it sets out the tow rates and whatnot, but, I think having that, just having it in place is another mechanism and a tool for us to be able to use, and adhering to the undersheriff's advice to obviously have our city attorney check with our ordinance to make sure that if we do decide anything public property or private property wise, that we understand that full thing. But so we have to obviously sign it, or we'd have to direct the city to sign it. So I would say we need a motion to accept.
Has everybody read through this?
I have not yet. I haven't had a chance. It didn't come through
you wanna
on my
wait?
email.
Yeah.
You want to wait till the next
I think
meeting?
we should have. 2 out of the.
I'd feel more comfortable having read through the whole thing.
Okay. So we will.
Just a point, both those streets are 80-foot streets,
Yeah.
and we've got 25 feet of gravel, the rest is street on both sides.
That's when I realized how wide the streets were. That's why I said, be surprised how many of them are on city property.
Okay, so tabled. for action. So that was just discussion here, so action, tabled action until next meeting on Johnson Family Towing. Alright. Thanks for helping us clarify some of that too.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
good timing.
Okay, next on our list is a chicken ordinance.
That's where you get the big flush.
And Councilman Shank, you brought this to our attention again. In our packets that we received, there is
His cheeks just got red.
obviously his email that I'd forwarded to Janice for us to print here, and then also an ordinance in the back. There's a little bit lost, I'll start with anyway, of institutional knowledge with Bunny had previously talked to Cynthia, the old attorney, when we had like a 12-page ordinance. And there was some issues that I think the council had and the attorney had. And so I don't know though, I personally don't know what those issues were with the attorney had with our thing. And so I don't know if there's some of that's lost. You might have to.
I remember a lot of it. That ordinance, the 12-pager, was way too complicated, and it started dealing with people's personal property and things they could and could not do on their own property that the city had no business meddling with.
Okay.
And so that got scrapped. So I was asked, well, I won't quote exactly what Peter said in that meeting, but it was pretty much give them the birds. So I put this together. This was bare bones, very simple and straightforward. We had decided in that meeting that we were just going to do it if an ordinance could be written up. So I put that together. I sent out the email asking for feedback before the meeting. I didn't hear anything from anybody, so here it is. Yes, no, maybe. Should the city attorney take a look at that and make sure that we're not going to get our heads
the only
lopped
thing I
off?
would probably, I would say, do we want to take just to say a straw poll, how the council feels about if we want an ordinance?
Mm-hmm.
And then if the council says, the majority of council says, yeah, I think that an ordinance like this is fine, direct the clerk to send it off to the attorney to review, to make sure, then we can make action, we can officially adopt it,
Okay.
if that's the case.
Hasn't the city attorney already looked at this version?
I don't remember if the city attorney saw this one or not.
Yeah, I believe since I've been on even, so
Okay.
This version's been around for a while?
Was that the attorney that we have now or the attorney we had
I
before?
think it was Cynthia.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this version. I don't know that
But
for sure.
Cynthia is no longer our attorney, then that's Joshua Grant.
Right.
Right,
And
but
so I
I
don't know
think
what-
this
Is this the exact document?
I believe
This is
so.
what I pulled up. I wasn't sure if this was anything we had seen before or
just,
not.
that's just kind of an FYI.
So, two things then is, we can go back and have the clerk look at the notes then, because I think the prior clerk talked to them, and so she can see what was notated with, and if there's enough information there that says Cynthia, the prior attorney, was fine with it, then so be it. And
Okay.
if there isn't enough information, then we probably want to send it to Joshua Grant,
Okay.
the new attorney. But is there any a straw poll?
Have we ever sent an ordinance to an attorney for
When-
overview?
Almost every time. Like these types of ones. So like ones that are, this is a brand new ordinance?
Oh, so like, not for like the rate increase like I did?
No,
Okay. if
it's
you-
this, when it's, anytime like we had our dog ordinance that was brand
Okay.
new, or, something that's, we think as a council, like is great,
Okay.
but we're not, because that's what happened. One of them, the attorney said, no way, this isn't, like you guys will get
Okay.
lit up or something.
Mhm.
I'm
But
just
the
making
council's
sure
like,
that
oh.
I wasn't supposed to send
So
that
from a
rate
straw
increase
poll,
to him.
do you have any issues? Anyone have any issues with going forward with an ordinance for allowing chickens?
None. I favor it.
I'm in the middle,
Yeah, I'm
to be honest with
indifferent.
you. Yep.
Okay.
So with that, then, I would say at least let's go look in the prior thing to see what we can find.
Found the whole
And if we
file.
can't, then have the attorney look at it. And then at the next council meeting, we can take action.
Okay.
If that,
Sounds fine to me.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Good plan.
All right. Moving right along, truck, well, so two things. No truck parking signs for Third Street overnight, and then leaking vehicles. Kind of combine those because they work together. Peter, you mentioned that you had, I think, talked to somebody.
Hadn't talked to him, I turned him in.
Oh, okay.
Sunday night, I called 911. It was a serious spill.
No, I saw it, and for the council, Janice got the
If I'd known, Janice, I would have reconsidered my call.
Hey, I
because
got
they went to
them
the
all week
Department
long.
of Ecology.
It's okay.
The Department of Ecology referred it to Lincoln County Sheriff's. Sheriff's attempted to talk to him, or did or didn't. Scott also talked to him, and then the person called Janice and laid into Janice
Not nice.
about why we would turn them in. But the last spill was oil. That was actually motor oil.
That was motor oil, yeah, I looked
Yeah.
at it when I cleaned it up.
But so the person now has since moved. They parked their truck the last at least one night on the side road.
Yeah.
But
It's there tonight too again. So
it's not a question of where they park it, it's a question of whether they clean up their spill or don't cause the spill in the first place. If they park in 100 different spots over 100 days, we're gonna have 100 oil spots. We don't want that.
I talked to Doug at DOT,
Mhm.
and Ecology is ultimately responsible for spills. And if there's damage like potholes, DOT is responsible. Anything else within city limits, we're responsible.
It doesn't help to just force them to park somewhere else because the problem continues. They're parking out here in front of these apartments often, and it just puts oil directly into the
The ground,
soil,
right.
into the ground. Would be better if they put it on the pavement.
right. So Ecology, I don't know what Ecology. Are you aware of this situation? So did Ecology? I think what I understood was Ecology forwarded it to you as Lincoln County Sheriff.
I don't know where we got the call from. I'm assuming if you called 911, that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Because
I did.
Ecology was you didn't call Ecology then.
No.
So Ecology then was somehow
I got that information from Doug Beers, right? Or it's Byers?
Beers.
Beers.
But
He
who?
called me today.
Right, but the original complaint,
Who told DOE?
somebody told Ecology about it.
That, I don't know.
I don't know either.
No,
Because I thought the person that the perpetrator, or whatever you call him, the oil leaker, had mentioned that Ecology was called as well. But ultimately, I think you're right. So one of the things we can do is no overnight parking. Some of our streets are rated, some of them are not rated for semi-park. I mean, that's what we had a leak up on this street a while ago because the semi was parking there
And broke the line.
and broke the line. Now, where the parking now, it's gravel, so I don't think there's a water line up there or something on that
There's
side.
a really deep sewer line there, but yeah, I directed him to park it there as a, stopgap between parking it on the street and having to clean up his oil spill. But he's supposed to be getting a different truck, but that one has to go in and get fixed. His other truck that he normally drives is getting fixed now, so.
Well, should we call Bigfoot? Because that one too, they left an oil rag out. I mean, somebody was pretty blatant. There was like dirty oil rags there, like they tried to clean off something, and they just left it there. That's also litter. I mean, it was like just blatant disregard
I cleaned all that up.
No, but that's like blatant disregard from the person who did it.
Sure.
For our proper, for the city, like to park their truck and then leave their
Dump their
trash.
trash on the.
Not only like leave their oil, but then they leave their trash with their oil.
How much oil are we talking about here? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, there was-
About 3 by 4 foot
There's quite a bit.
size.
And
Okay.
it pooled to where Scott put absorbent down.
Okay.
I have photographs I'll make available.
And that was the first oil that I'm aware of. The other times it's been another fluid, whether it's diesel or water or.
The other truck he had was leaking transmission fluid, and that's.
Somebody's
it's
dog
oil,
don't like
but
that.
it's-
Right.
It's a lighter weight of oil, but anyway, he's supposed to have gotten that truck fixed, he hasn't got it back yet.
Right, but in the meantime, it's at our expense that he does this with really no regard for. I mean, you could have put an oil tray down, right? You can put an oil pan underneath there.
He could.
I mean, if you know your truck's leaking, again, I was frustrated yesterday when I walked out there and saw an oil rat. Like, which one thing, like, if there's oil, okay. Then you have like your trash with it, and it's like, you already knew that it was there, and then just,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Just walked
so-
off and left it.
I've seen on the
But
top.
I don't know if we call Ecology and tell them that they have their trucks, because that's what Doug Beer said, it's not really, it's within the city, but if they have these trucks leaking, I mean, Ecology doesn't want it going into the soil, whether it's, you know,
Department
and
of Ecology
I don't want
would
it to
not
go in.
even respond to an oil leak like that.
No.
It would have to
It's gotta
be
be a 100-gallon
major.
leak and possibility
Yeah.
of threat to a creek or
Yep.
a runoff area or something like that. And that's just the way they are. I mean,
sure.
We can call them, but they,
It would be the trucking company first.
I don't know what to do.
On gravel roads to keep the dust down. I mean,
Not quite the same oil though.
they used to.
Well-
I bet they did.
That's why they don't anymore.
They used to use DDT for that. Yeah, right.
Oh, absolutely. At some point, I'm sure it's a lot
Unless
different
they're
oil.
too-
Well, the other thing though, as part of this though, is we've talked about, we have one no truck parking sign on this road here, right in front of the, I don't know,
that sign right here is actually says no parking on this side. I got a brand new one put up there.
okay.
Jeff Talkington parked in front of it twice now.
Right.
So, but the new one's reflective and maybe he'll be able to see it.
But do we want to, I mean, luckily right now, those storefronts that they're parking on, they're not, I mean, one of them is being actively worked on, but they're not occupied by a business. But it would be frustrating if it were a business there and a person parked there every day.
Yeah.
It's not, again, just a disregard for what we have. So, you know, I don't know if we need to look into it, if needs to be an ordinance that we have to create for like no overnight truck parking. And this whole,
No overnight truck leaking. That's what we need.
What-
Moving them around, moving them to a different area of the city doesn't solve the problem. It just exacerbates it.
But aside from
We're
the
looking
leaking
beyond just that
problem-
one truck
Correct.
though.
We have another truck that's brand new. I think it's a 2018, a block away.
and who
We don't
parks,
want that in the same spot in front of a business or the store or the one that will be open or the city hall when they happen to not go to work the next day. And it's there till 10 o'clock and people can't park in front of the city hall. This is.
It's
I
a
think
two-
what
it's a
Justin is-
two-pronged approach.
Right,
I mean,
think
it's-
Justin's getting at the part of just the parking at this point. Is that correct?
yeah, no, it's a
And then
two,
deal with the
it's
other
two-pronged
issues as
because,
they
sorry,
come.
Peter.
You're fine.
It is, and maybe it's again but that's the only, so far, I'm aware of, that's the other person that drives a brand new truck seems to be more courteous, if you were, I mean, you know, I don't know.
I get a better response out of Tyler's leaky truck in Tyler than I could out of the new truck from the truck driver.
But-
That's just my opinion.
I'm just differentiating between the leaking problem and
And
the
parking.
parking problem. Justin is now after the parking problem. Do we
Okay.
want to put something
My
in
mistake.
place?
No, it's, but they're combined
They're
because
tied together.
you're absolutely right, Peter. But we don't want to move it around, but we also need to establish it, because it's the same problem. I mean,
I don't think you go.
it's tied together anyway. 'Cause if you didn't park there, you wouldn't leak.
I agree.
I mean, trucks leak,
I don't know either.
trucks drive on this highway every day and leak stuff, whether it's cow manure or oil. I mean, it happens when they're driving, but there's also the parking issue that obviously exacerbates it when they park overnight and then it leaks a 3x4 puddle that we saw the other day.
Yeah, I just figured, other than the leaking, if he parks up there, then part of the problem is solved. He's not downtown blocking businesses. We can address that with the company or him and tell him to put down a drip pan.
I mean, it's a sad thing because this is the same person that took down our pole in front of City Hall.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I mean, there's a lot of things, right? I mean, it's
Pitchforks and torches?
It's taken down our poles, then it's ruining our streets, and and it's blocking all of our business, you know, our buildings, so it's one person that's done all that, rough, essentially, so.
And if you leak on a asphalt street, you leak oil, it's gonna break down the asphalt. Way worse than parking on a gravel street, is what I'm saying.
But that's a state responsibility for that road.
No,
If there's a pothole, if that creates a pothole, then the state's responsible.
in between the two white lines. They won't do anything outside the white lines.
Oh,
I'm just saying,
What were you gonna say?
Regarding the parking problem, if there's proper signage and they're parking in violation of it, just let us know.
We've got a new sign to put up here.
That's one though, and it's on one side of the street, and it's in front of one building at the end of this area. Partly that's a safety thing though, because you're coming around that corner and things as well.
And that's why the state, when they let us put the painting and striping down on this side of the street, they let us move it over, and it's in a parking area. If they did park a car there or pick a truck, it would be.
It's in the traveled way there.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So we want to have a committee.
Who owns that right away? Is it the city?
The city would.
the city owns the right of way, yes.
Do you want, well, when, I mean, I don't know that actually if there, do you have to have an ordinance? I mean, are you still a council member down in Odessa?
I am, yeah.
So do you have to, I mean, you've been on a long time, I mean, a while, to have to put no truck or no overnight parking, is that ordinance issue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have to have an ordinance for
You'd
that.
have to have an ordinance for that, definitely.
So, do you wanna, that, maybe administrative or public works
The public works probably.
can work on that between the now and the next meeting to research what other, I'm sure again, there's model language either from, we can use Odessa, AWC or MRSC will have some model language we can do, we can bring it forth to the next council meeting and get that.
That and then maybe the bounds of where, we describe in that ordinance too probably would be a good thing to do.
I think though, to Peter's concern is maybe between Janice and Scott, that they can maybe talk to the trucking company and say, hey, can you, if you're gonna park your truck overnight, that's fine, and you're fixing it, that's fine too, but maybe provide your driver with an oil pan. And, I mean, again, start that route, like at least start with them, and then if they say screw you, then we can look at the next, I don't know what the next option would be, because it sounds like it's in limbo. I mean, it's kind of purgatory where it falls between,
Yeah.
the state doesn't care, college doesn't care, Lincoln County Sheriff might help us if we have certain things in place, but, at the same time, it's,
Yeah. It's a thorny problem. We're gonna have to
okay. So we'll do that.
figure out a solution.
Okay.
It's not gonna be easy.
So next on our list was an executive session that was put on by former council member McClellan. I don't know if we still, I was under the impression if we still need to have that or not.
I don't even know what it was about.
I don't
Do
either.
we know what the subject was?
It was regarding vacation.
It was regarding the last discussion of the December, the discussion we had last time in public session that was supposed to be in private or executive
Oh,
session.
yeah.
So I don't know.
I'd say if the person
Cancel
who
it.
put it on here is not here to
Strike it
discuss
from
it.
the
Okay.
agenda.
Okay. All right, next, status of light poles. This is, I think, a two-part Scott's report that he and I had talked about originally, his assessment of those, and then also where we're at with the three new poles, or the 3 poles that are got there, so.
I talked to the AWC insurance lady this morning, or during lunch, and she's talked to Jeff Talkington, Jeff Talkington is denying that he tore down the wire. But we have paperwork that says he come into City Hall and he admitted that he did it, and he was upset over it because the city's streetlight is too close to the road. But he was trying to jockey his truck around and into, there's tracks of it, I didn't get pictures of it, unfortunately, but he was parking his truck into a snow pile to try to get it lined up where he was, and he was worried about that, and he hooked the pole and jerked it down with his truck, not with his trailer, but with his truck, exhaust on his truck. Anyway, so since then, we filed with our insurance company all the claims,
For all 3,
all 3,
Okay.
and we've ordered 2 poles complete and a head for the other pole. The one pole down here that I believe I can fix it. I know I can fix it, it's just gonna be a matter of when and how.
He's denying it now?
Mhm.
I saw it happen. I was there the morning that it happened, turning on the Christmas lights.
but it's fine, the insurance has already dealt with it, and they already
But-
know.
And
With
then I
that
saw him
one-
walk over here.
With that one though, if you saw it, could you please write a statement regarding that? That's what she's asking.
Oh, okay.
For
If
Jeff
any-
Talkington.
if anybody did see it, and that I can get that to her. If you would do that for me.
Saying,
That you saw it happen.
Do you want a description of what happened or just the fact that he saw it?
A description of what you saw, just the facts.
yeah, I mean,
The facts only, just,
they want an actual person's name attached to it?
You're in it now,
Preferably
Tim.
yours.
You have to
It
sign a
doesn't-
form saying you made the statement.
I just am concerned with,
Just
because
say-
I have a personal relationship with the person.
No,
I
you
don't
don't-
want it to get
just
back.
say-
It's like I'm,
Immaterial.
you know,
you
I
can
don't-
say citizen,
I don't wanna do
you
that.
can sign it citizen of
Oh,
Harrington,
okay.
that's fine.
But so last time, Scott, you and I talked, it was about 3 months when we ordered those poles, is that?
6 weeks on the poles, because they gotta recast them. We had a heck of a time finding anything that was close. The original manufacturer doesn't do it anymore, but we found,
were new.
well, they're
When they
15 years ago, they were new, or 20 years ago, they were new, but now they're not anymore. But anyway,
aren't new.
yeah. But anyway, we can order the poles, or we ordered the poles already, so,
All right.
and the light.
And then what about the assessment on all the other poles you saw? I mean, because you went through and checked every single pole.
We didn't check them all, we didn't check the ones that are up on the pedestals.
That's the one that fell over though in the
The one
wind.
that fell over, but that was, I believe, you look at they got a breakaway cup on them. If you do hit them, normally, if you hit them, they break away and separate, like the state has holes drilled in all their signs, so they break away, that type of thing. They'll break away, but the bonding that this pole had on it was just in the last quarter inch of the cup and the pole. It was nothing.
Well, the other two poles were hit down by trucks. Like, I understand that, like, a truck hit them. My concern for the city was if the wind blows a pole over, that someone could walk down the street and a wind blows it over, and it was on a pedestal, so we probably should have, I thought you were gonna check every pole, especially the ones on pedestals where the wind blew the one over that it
We
could,
started to check all the poles. We haven't got them all done yet.
I'm sure our insurance company's gonna, that's what they're gonna be all over us because 3 claims in 1 week is, probably unusual.
I hope so.
Okay.
I got one more question on the light poles, on the flickering lights. You've had to, what's the cause to, and it, so I have 3 questions. First one is what's the cause that makes them blank? My second question is it only on the new bulbs? And thirdly, of the ones that are flickering, do you have to replace those or do you just, is it a tightening issue?
We've been pretty extensive with this. We've replaced the bulbs. We've put dielectric grease on the sockets in the bulbs. And LED bulbs, we can't figure out if it's, they seem to be blinking in the cold weather. When it's really cold out, outside the one down across from the grocery store, that one's blinking, no matter what. So we've taken one of the blinking lights, every one of the blinking lights, we've moved them, and they haven't blinked except for that one. We took the one, replaced the one between the store and the bank with a blinking light. Then we took the top off, it's wired in, we took the top off and capped off the wires, so the light actually fits heat better.
So you haven't replaced any of the blinking bulbs, you just moved them?
Yeah, no, we've replaced several of the blinking, but there was 3 blinking down that way, and none of them were blinking again. But the one that's blinking over by Mike's was a previous blinking bulb. And we put it in, it was just fine. We run it down to the shop for 4 days straight. And it never did blink. So.
And it's only those newer bulbs that are doing this, correct? Or there's some,
The LED bulbs. No.
right,
The old bulbs don't, no.
okay.
There's also one
So
at the
I had-
hotel too. Hotel
I
blinks.
saw 2, there's one right there. One
Yeah.
right there.
Disco
I was just curious, I didn't know if we're putting those new bulbs in there and halfway through that and find out that they're trash
Some
or
of the new,
what?
4 of the new bulbs are blinking, and we think it's a heat issue. Because the only thing, they're moisture proof, they say they're weatherproof. The only thing that they're in a confined space. There's a gasket at the bottom, there's a gasket on the nut that we put on the top. The next thing I wanted to do was drill some holes in the plastic globe so no water could get in there, but to ventilate heat. And we just haven't had a chance to do that.
Thank you.
But now there was 3 questions. Did I answer them all?
Yes.
Okay, next on here is status of the cemetery markers in the niche. So the markers were the crosses that I think we started talking about in December or November of 18.
Yeah, I just gotta give them to Spokane and have them powder coated and sandblasted and powder coated. I just haven't.
So we budgeted for it last year and we budgeted for this year. If you go to Spokane every week,
Don't go to Spokane every week.
you go to Cheney though, right?
No. I've been UPS in the sample.
Oh, you have recently?
Yes. Last
Well, okay,
4
but
weeks.
you do go to, I mean,
Yeah, next time I go to Spokane, I've got it written down. I'll go in and take them in.
all right. And then what about the niche? Do we know, didn't we paid for that last year, right?
I don't remember if we did
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we-
They're waiting until spring before they can do anything. They gotta pour concrete and everything, so.
Okay, and is that something that we have to direct? 'Cause I think we did that probably last July or August, prior to the winter. Do we have to direct them to come out, or do they do it, I mean, what,
I'm not sure. I can call them and find out what's going on.
okay. Because, yeah, I think that'd be good to have both of those things ahead of the springtime
Yeah.
cemetery, you know, we get, especially Memorial Day weekend and everything. Okay. Next on here, third person contact for mutual aid agreement. So if you guys recall, this is a little different now, there's actually a second and third, but last time we agreed for the mutual aid, we voted to accept the mutual aid agreement with the other cities and towns in Lincoln County. And we had one person, which,
It asks for the mayor, and so I'll have to put.
A little
Nathan
louder,
down.
please.
but is that, so who's the person we have right now? Scott?
Scott, it'll be Scott, Nathan, and then one of you guys.
It has to be an elected official, is what they've asked for, to be a third person contact, I guess in case the mayor is not available or the public services or public works director. Do either of you have, and you went to some of those meetings, right? We did that mutual aid and the regionalization stuff?
One of them.
One of them? I don't know, I mean, well, 2 things, so I think it's the third line of defense.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of you being called to duty or action are probably
Slim.
slim to none,
I
but,
think more of it too is to getting hold of somebody to get a hold of the correct person to be able to get the resources. That
Okay.
makes sense?
Yeah.
Hey, I can't get a hold of Scott or anyone, like, I need to call and see if I can use their backhoe. We gotta.
so is any one of you, or,
I thought Nathan would be the next tier.
so there's 3 people, so Nathan will be the mayor, right now anyway, and Scott, and we need a third person that needs to be elected. So I can do it, I didn't know, but I wanted to offer it to you, I mean, I don't mind doing it.
Go for it.
But I wanted to offer it to
If you don't mind doing it, you just got the job, in my
Okay,
opinion.
okay, I didn't, again, I think it's,
And I see the time,
yeah, well,
Mr. Chair.
I put your name in all caps under that one, Justin.
I will let Margie Hall know.
Okay.
Send her an email.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so next, we did findings regarding ecology. We did Casey Mungie. It's an addition that's not on, that we didn't talk about earlier, but it's real quick. It's in our packets. A letter to the citizens. This was something that former Councilmember McClellan was working on. It didn't go out at in the last bills, and so Janice and I talked about it. This is an explanation to the residents because several residents have come in
Right.
asking questions about why their bill is more expensive, and Janice has had to answer that, and it sounds like maybe other council members have had that question too. So this was a letter that we didn't know if we wanted to send it out now. Well, a couple things. One, to send it out now or wait until the February bills go out, and we can put it, save postage in that
Right,
sense,
put it in the
or
same.
and then also originally Councilman McClellan sent it out to us, and I think you'd responded that it looked fine. She was gonna sign it as the acting mayor. But Janice and I talked, depending on the timing, if we just sign it as the council, obviously we have an acting mayor now, but we have to, I think it's probably prudent that the city send out a letter
Right.
like this. And it just, if that's the case, then do we do it now, or do we wait? And then do we want to sign it as the council, or just, now that we have an acting mayor, have the acting mayor sign it?
My opinion is to send it out with the February bills for the postage wise, and then sign it however we see fit.
I like that. So
I would agree with that as
It
well.
already has the council on there, so we can, obviously people can ask us. It has the email here for the clerk's email with questions, but,
I'd like to read it again and ruminate on it a bit before I decide what the best approach is. But I like Nathan's idea, send it out with bills. That'll entail 3 sheets of paper in the envelope, won't it?
to,
Some people get 5, some people get 3.
Oh,
but
it'll
the
be,
standard bill is 1 page.
yeah, standard bills.
So it would be a
one.
second, it wouldn't cost any
Wouldn't
additional.
cost
Yeah.
anything more. Okay.
The only thing is, what I would recommend then
Imagine getting
is
5.
to work with both Nathan and Janice, because the bills go out, I think this is dated 24th, so that'll be before our next council meeting. So if there's any, I know you'd already responded to it
Right.
and said it would look fine, so I would just say if you have any questions, that
Get them to Janice immediately.
Janice or Nathan talk to them about it, but that we know that there's still 2 weeks before it's gonna go out.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this is the general construct, explanation of why we did what we did as a council last year.
Okay,
Good?
good.
Okay, and then I think the last thing on here was, it came up, like IT services for the city. So obviously we don't have anyone that, is on staff, or even, it had been this way for a while. I know previously, we used the services of, you added, I don't have that, that's why, sorry.
Oh, let's just, you keep going with
Yeah.
you, and then we'll go back. to it.
Okay, I don't have it on.
Yeah, that's fine.
We used the services of Mike Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
For like connecting the network, and then Steven's helped us out a little bit too. Steven's done it unpaid. And we've paid Mike, and that's something that Paul did, and that Bunny had, I know even when I was the mayor, Mike had come in when Bunny had questions or with him and worked with him. And so, but really but then there was some recent times I think too where there's been some other folks coming in. And so do we want to have like an official contractor or IT guy, or do we want to have anyone that like, hey, Levi's like, my cousin's an IT guy, he's going to be in town next week and duck hunting with me or pheasant hunting, he can come in and help us, type of scenario.
Do you know of anything that we had
Season's over.
between Mike Hardy? I mean,
I
do
don't
we
think there was
have
an official,
a
as far as
price or any.
no, I think he just billed, Mike's a pretty, he just, he billed hourly, but he was upfront probably with, I know he set up he set up our entire network internally, and then every time they got a new computer, he would recommend which one to buy and help set it up, or a printer. Steven helped us with this one just because I asked Steven for help when we bought that one. But I just don't know if it's a big deal. It was brought to my attention, so that's why I just added it, but somebody else had mentioned it. But I don't know how we feel about it. Obviously, if it's a bigger city, they're kind of tightened down, but I don't know. And we don't have to take there's no real action other than, it's just, do we want to just say, hey, we've worked with Mike, we've continued, let's like start with Mike, and if he can't do it, then we can go elsewhere, but Mike's kind of,
Our
or
go-to
Steven,
guy.
like those guys, just because, I don't
I think
know.
we should do, something put in place, just so, it's the security of the city, and, it depends on what somebody's doing, obviously. If they're bringing you a new keyboard, you said, hey, can you recommend one? They bring that and you plug it in, like, that's not a big deal. But, just to make sure that the security of anything that's on the computer stays that way, and passwords and, getting into the system was one of the was my concern. We should know who has it, and only have so many people that have access. And or anything to do with the technology part of it was just my thought, so.
I
however-
just wanted to say that I did have authorization from the mayor when that took place, too, at the time.
Oh, sure, no,
That's-
there's no
that's
fault
fine.
here, it's just a
No.
matter of, again, these are things that have been mostly verbal before, and just like
Yeah.
like somebody knew somebody type of thing, and
There's a bad reputation of not having anything in writing, not having a
Right.
process or
No,
procedure
I get that.
for anything that we do, and that's a bad habit to have.
especially with our stuff now is
Nothing.
going online,
Yeah.
and it's only people's names and addresses, but, I mean, that's a little different than our old hand way of doing it, so there's obviously a little bit more security types of things. So maybe we can talk to Mike between you and I or whatever, and see what he's done in the past and bring that to the council next time, and to see what we want, how we want to deal with it.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
all right. And then you have a different agenda than me, so there's one more thing on here, the Harrington Historic Preservation Commission.
You guys should have in your packets a sheet that was submitted by the HHPC, should be the last one, by the recorder, Karen Allen, and you can read it on there. Essentially what it's asking is the council, the city to, one, asking what allowable budget is for 2020 to the HHPC. And then the second one is kind of within the same thing, but it's asking for a $60 purchase of some,
Of a book, right?
of a book, literature, some reading material that has to do with historic districts and stuff for towns. So this was Karen, I believe it was Karen, somebody from the HHPC had verbally told me that the previous budget had been $600 a year. I don't know that personally. I have not looked at it. Is that Tim shaking his head?
Sounds
Maybe.
Sounds right, I don't think we changed it, it's been a kind of a blanket, $600.
Yep. And then, so they're wanting to know about the book and then the process of purchasing things. So if we have a budget of 600,
Can you clarify too, are you now the current president of the HHPC?
yes, I am.
So,
This was before, but yes.
no, in times past, we can get the budget figure for you, but I think it's probably 600, there's no reason, I don't think it changed.
Yeah.
In times past, I think, and we did it once when I think we've done it twice when I was on the council, once when I was the mayor, where they did something and then came and asked, or for reimbursement.
And
If
that's
you guys
why we
remember,
went this route.
HHPC is an arm of the city. I guess they don't have unilateral, they don't get to just spend their $600 any way they want. They have to ask permission from the council for that. So that's what I think what they're doing here,
Correct.
to spend the $60
Right.
on this book that they want for their purposes.
Realized that had happened before, and that's precisely what we didn't
So
want to
does-
do again.
The mayor or acting mayor have to authorize it then? Or does the council vote on it to
I don't know.
authorize it?
It's almost a conflict of
I remember last year, actually, no, we brought it to the council because it came to the clerk
Yep.
after the fact. And the clerk didn't say, I can't, we didn't know anything about it until we brought it to the council, and the council then approved it retroactively. So I think, I don't know if we need a motion or just a verbal,
He needs to abstain.
I move
since
the
he's
Harrington
president.
Historic Preservation Commission be authorized to expend up to $70 for the purchase of the book described in their letter of January 25th, 2020.
all right, motion by Davenport,
I'll second.
second by Schenk.
Discussion? I make it for 70 to allow for shipping expense. They've asked for 60, but
I think
there
that's
could be ancillary.
It's Amazon
expenses.
Prime, so it's probably, but sure, up to $70. So, okay, good. So motion by Davenport, second by Schenk. Any further discussion?
One other question, not just on this item, but just in going forward, is should that be the due process to purchase anything moving forward? Is just bring it to the council, have the council vote on it?
I seem
then
to remember
go
that
forward.
we've done that every single time.
Okay.
Mr. Cronrath, I would ask him just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure in the entire time I've been on the council that they've always brought it to us.
Okay. And then is this a buy and reimburse, or is this the city buys this? Do you remember?
That
It's
I
always
don't
been, it's always been a
remember.
purchase and it's always been a reimbursement because they've come after the fact and asked for a reimbursement.
Well, but I mean, yeah,
Right.
before that.
But the
so-
city doesn't have a credit card.
Okay.
So the only way the city, like if it's Amazon, it'd have to be,
Right.
But we have an Amazon account,
we do now?
and I could go on and get their book and have it ordered and shipped to the city hall.
We have that now?
I did, yeah.
Oh.
You told me to.
Well, no, I know, but I didn't, we've talked about it for 2 years and so, I mean, it's been talked about at the council, so,
Just, but I mean, could be something not on Amazon. We'll just have
Maybe the
that
cheapest
person
place.
buy it. Somebody buy it and then get reimbursed for
Yes.
it
Yeah,
with
they could do
prior
that.
approval.
yeah.
Okay.
And I think, I mean, I would say, I don't know anything about, I mean, you guys have obviously researched these things, so if you bring a recommendation, and you've already vetted it out, if it's within your budget, I have no problem every time making it,
Call for the vote.
okay. So all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstain?
Yep.
Okay, 301.
I have a comment. There appears to be an item missing from our agenda, but it's a very important item. Are we going to talk about payment of, discussion of payment of vacation pay?
That was the executive session item.
Okay. That I didn't understand.
Okay, I mean, we're pretty flat.
That's why we struck it because
I
it was
suspect
put on
we may
the.
have guests who are prepared to talk on that subject.
It's an executive session item, it's a personnel-related issue,
Yeah,
so.
we can't talk about it in open
Janice has talked to
session.
AWC about it, and the attorneys, and they said that absolutely, that's not a public forum.
But we can vote on whether it gets paid or not.
No,
It-
The city sued.
You
Take it back
can,
there.
well,
Not- and
two
not
things.
anymore
we
here.
can't
You
even
you can't
discuss it
vote.
here.
You can't vote anything in executive session. You can discuss everything in executive session and then vote on something in public.
Is it out of order for a motion to pay the vacation time to the employees? That's done in open session.
You can make the motion, sure.
I would move that the vacation pay that is claimed by at least 2 of the citizens of Harrington be paid at a rate of 100% compensation.
So even though our policy says up to 75%.
Policy, I'm not aware of that. Up to 75% has been paid in the past, but I'm not aware that that's a policy. If that's a policy, I'd like to see it.
It's in our,
Do you have it with you?
Yeah, I think so. Hey, I got a
That's-
stack of papers in here.
that's what is in our annual report.
That is what we have in writing.
That's from the annual report that we file every year.
While he's reading that, I had asked Janice about a transcriptionist, and so I gave her some information. My understanding, as from talking to Cindy at Superior Court and from talking to Joey Johnston,
Okay,
the auditor's office, is that the city would be responsible for providing me a copy of the recording that was done.
the digital recording?
Your digital recording, yeah.
Sure.
And so I contacted, so I gave up on waiting for the city to get it for me before this meeting. And when I saw that you were gonna do a fact check, then I decided I needed to go ahead and hire somebody. So I did contact a woman in East Wenatchee. And so I gave Janice that information now. But I didn't send her a check yet because I was waiting to find out whether the city council wanted to vote on it or not.
Can I be given a chance to go back through and redo that section for you?
Well, that's what we tabled though too, where Peter had mentioned earlier that they want, there was I don't know if it's a section or multiple sections to go through to get clarified that we would table then until,
If they can talk with me and get with me, I
But I
just
still
was
want a
here at
transcription.
10:30.
at this point, because he wants to sit down and talk one-on-one about the news that I wrote, and I'm sure that it's accurate.
sure.
The
So
news as
this
printed
is, so
in the
what I know is, we used to have tapes before we had this, and the tapes are, I don't know, and that's available here to somebody to come listen to. I know that the prior clerk wouldn't let those tapes out of the city hall because that was the only record.
Right.
Now we have a digital recorder, so we download these to the computer file, so we can give you a copy of that.
Or
And-
send it to a transcriptionist.
I don't know where the cords are for that.
So this though says that they are going to charge, it looks like $350.
No, it's probably well over that. $350 is what she would charge as a down payment from me as a personal citizen.
So I guess I have to pause you just for a moment. I'm a little lost on the end goal here. Is this about the newspaper article that is in turn about the vacation pay, or is this a separate
They're linked.
discrepancy about the vacation pay?
They're
No,
related.
the article was about last month's meeting,
Correct.
and he's taking issue with it being factually correct.
Correct. Got that.
The only way I can prove that it's,
So some of the information that was reported in that article was not spoken here at the council meeting.
part of it was not. You're
Right.
right.
No,
And
no.
all of that information that was not in the meeting, all of that information was gathered during the week afterwards, and it's all on emails.
I know at least one piece that wasn't, so I can talk to you about that afterwards. And you can do whatever you want.
Send me an email. I don't want to be stuck in a one-on-one with you.
Sure.
I have a question, because I was on the council at this last meeting about this topic of the vacation pay. From what I understand, what the council was told when you were acting mayor, this was the mayor's discretion, that's how our policy is. Is that still correct? Or is this like a moot point that the current council can even make a decision on that? After the fact, that's a different calendar year. Now it's
Tim,
2020.
by law,
I'm just
you
curious.
take the
Ask-
definite, the rules and what the mayor can do and what the council does. The mayor says it's his decision. The council, by law, cannot overrule the mayor on that particular decision. And if they don't want to believe me, they can go over to Shelley and ask Shelley.
That's how I understood
They
it.
cannot override what Justin voted by law.
So then you were
Unless
making a
he-
motion
What
that
he-
it's
What
a
the
moot
mayor does
point.
is subject to the approval of the council.
Not in all, absolutely not.
Because those are the employees that the mayor can hire and, like, it's a different thing. That's how I
Compartmentalized.
understand it,
Duty of
yeah.
the mayor.
It is.
That's the same thing with the
Compartmentalized.
maintenance
Mayor's
worker stuff.
position.
Excuse me, in the very beginning, that should have never been on the agenda.
True.
It was a separation between the mayor and the council. Those are the facts. It should have never been discussed at this table, but it was, unfortunately.
We all
Personnel
discussed it.
issues should have never been brought to this table. And I called MRSC. I talked to an attorney. I got my facts. It should have never been discussed. We shouldn't be having this discussion right now.
Nope.
It
Fair
needs
enough.
to stop.
Yep.
My understanding was discussion of personnel matters was, what had to be excluded from them was the amount of money involved.
Which any personnel matter that involves a city employee or a school district employee, the personnel doesn't matter if it's saying that the city employee is the greatest employee in the world, or the employee is not the greatest employee in the world. Either way, that personnel matters is not to be is
How can we revisit this issue?
You
Only
can't.
in executive
You
session.
can't.
It shouldn't even be
It's
happening.
done.
If, it should have been done in an executive session.
We're getting two answers here. It can't be
In
discussed.
public.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
But in
If there's
order
any
to
discussion
expend the
about this,
funds,
about-
we have to vote on it. We can't vote in the executive session.
Correct. So, but if, now, two
But you
things,
could have this discussion back there.
And then we
to see
can
if you
vote.
wanted to continue with your motion and to do that.
But this discussion shouldn't
There's,
be.
there's two things happening though, is, and I don't, it's an accounting thing, but this affects 2019
Yeah.
payroll that has since been, like, 2019 is done. So I don't know the answer, other than, I don't know if you can open those books in that sense, or do
We
you
can
make an...
amend the 2019 budget. We've done it before. But
It's not the budget, because it's not that it's not budgeted. It's just a matter of the process of it. Like, if we're dealing with an issue that was from 2019 and it has, because really it would be for the 2020 budget.
2020
If you
budget.
decided to do that, it would affect the 2020 budget, because if that's one way to do it.
Yeah. Well, how can we revisit the issue?
If you want to discuss it, we would have to discuss it in executive session. If you don't want to discuss it and you want to make a motion like you previously did, that you can, and then if there's a second on it, fine. And then if there's a second, then we can vote, and if there's no second, then it dies.
It appears that based on this new information that I've gotten, that was provided by Nathan, the motion requires an amending motion. And I would amend the motion to restate it to 75% of full compensation in lieu of 100%.
So motion to pay out,
A motion to amend the original motion.
there was no second though, so I don't think you need to amend it.
Until there's a second.
So motion to pay 75% of the unused vacation in 2020 as part of the 2020 budget.
I didn't include the 2020 budget.
I am. Do you not want, you don't have to. I think, so, but that's fine.
I don't know what the accounting machinations would be, but
Well, in principle, then, we can vote on it in principle, or you can make the motion in principle, and we can figure out the details if it falls into 2019 or to 2020, if you want to do that. I mean, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm just trying to,
yeah, I don't know how the budget process would be affected. That, I haven't addressed that in my motion.
okay. So a motion to pay out up to the 75% figure of the any unused vacation pay to the two city employees that didn't.
Yep.
Okay.
Although my original motion was for 100%. If I can amend it informally, I'd prefer to do that, to 75%.
Out of curiosity, can they vote? Can you guys vote to change something that?
Not gonna
To what?
Can you guys
Not by
vote,
law.
like if you vote yes, does that change what Justin did? You're gonna undo that?
It would tend to reverse it, yes.
You can't.
Do we know that?
Council cannot do that.
Do we know the amount of money? Do we know that that's even legal? I mean,
Nope.
I think those are some other things that, let's let this fly. You made the motion, we'll see if it seconds. I'm going forward thinking that maybe if it did pass a vote, then we would still have to do some research, and if it doesn't, it dies and it's where it's at. Is that a fair statement?
Seems reasonable.
The motion's been made.
So is there a second to Councilman Davenport's motion?
No. I don't
Okay,
have
hearing
one.
none.
Nope.
Motion dies.
Motion dies.
Okay. Okay.
You still did not give me an answer on the transcription. It went off on a further tangent.
So we can get you a transcription of last meeting's thing. I don't know if the city wants to pay for, do you want the city to pay for the transcriptionist, or do you want,
And you can choose your own if you want, but I contacted the one person who was able to do it. But she was on the list that was given to me by Peggy over at the courthouse.
Could you fill me in? I'm
So-
sorry, I don't know
We'll
what
have
that
to
is.
talk to Josh Grant about if we're liable to have to pay for that.
yeah, I think, well,
I wanted a certified copy. And the only way to get that is from a transcriptionist that is certified.
yeah, I don't know. Well, we have our minutes typically, and we tabled it this time, but I think as far as I know, but I'm not the expert or the authority on it, is our clerk's minutes that we approve as a council are the official copy. So I think that what we have available, personally, what we have from previous years and going forward suffices our public, and we have available we have the digital recordings that the previous ones are on tape, that anyone can use those here, and then if there's specific ones on this that we have downloaded, that we can download those and provide them to somebody. But we don't even know what the cost is, but I haven't seen
In the
it.
neighborhood is $600 or $700.
Yeah. And is that,
I'm sorry that I'm ignorant to this, but I still don't know what is the service being provided.
the minutes.
The exact wording of what occurred in the meeting that Justin is contesting.
Typed out.
You can put it in place.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I'm ignorant to what that was. I did not know what that. Thank you.
The value of that data is it applied to the issue we just addressed
Right.
and did
Yeah.
not vote on.
I was lost in wording. That's my fault. I apologize for that.
Well, I think with what we have between the minutes that we approve as a council on a standard basis, as well as this information here, that's, I would say, from a city's perspective, we're doing our required, we meet our.
Not. I have a legal right to a transcription of it.
Yeah, well, I would say that we would have to talk to this, well, one, we'd see an official public records request, and then two, talk to our attorney to see what certifies as or what counts as a certified transcription based on our minutes here as well as this here.
We might be able to save attorney's fees by going directly to the auditor. I think the auditor knows the answer.
I
that
don't
question?
think in a public records request that the city's responsible to pay.
The city's not responsible to pay for the public records request. The citizen is. For any,
So, but I'll talk to Josh Grant about that.
well,
The citizen is authorized to request a
Yeah.
copy.
Absolutely, by
Oh,
law.
absolutely.
Okay.
yeah,
I don't think that.
they're just not required, the city's not
I
required,
thought that was being contested too.
no.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's actually
But
very
I'm
strict
willing to
thing.
also sit down with her and go through it and be more detailed
Yeah.
in those sections.
But the other thing I'll
that are
say
being
is we
questioned Also,
have years of,
with this being my first.
We have years of minutes.
that I've done.
that's what our clerk does is, that's why we have this here, but the gist of these minutes is what's in these minutes. It's not, that's why these minutes are a motion by council member or Councilwoman McClellan and seconded by Councilmember Tipton to accept the minutes. It doesn't have our line by line folded, like, it doesn't have 2.5 hours of discussion. It has the,
And I will admit, after 3 hours and 50 minutes of going through, that was right at the very end. I was tired.
well, that's why we send this out early, and that's why the council is responsible for going
So,
through it and
I
making.
can be more detailed in that section. I can go back through it. I can do it word for word if that's what needs
It's
to be
gone beyond
done.
that at this point, and I would have been happy with that if it had come out that way to begin with.
Well, that is not, I didn't do lax on it for any reason,
I know.
any specific reason.
I know, I'm not pulling on you.
No, I
I'm just
know
saying-
that.
Let's go
But I'm-
forward with the plan that we have here.
You know, I'm saying that I can redo sections to make
Well, that's the purpose of our meetings here, is when we go through these to approve them, is that the council looks at them and says, yes, this is right, or hey, there's something that was missed here, or this wasn't exactly how I remember it, and that's why we go through that process here.
Yeah.
I had a question. It's about this topic. These are about the January minutes? The draft of the January minutes?
Yes.
So, from what I experienced being on the council gets a draft of those minutes in their council packet, which you guys have, which is
We
a
have it.
draft.
Yes.
So, to my knowledge, until those are approved and public, how does someone outside of the council see those minutes? Like, that's the part I don't understand how
Because I
that
asked for them.
is that normal?
It's legal.
But if they're not approved,
It's still legal.
okay, see that's the part that I was confused on.
So they're still legally binding before they've
They're
been
not
approved
even
by the
approved
council?
yet.
No, but it's legal to obtain.
Yeah. I understand that.
See, that I did
That's
not
what
know
he's
that. I
asking.
didn't think the public could have them until they were actually approved by the council. Because to what I understood, the council sees them when we get our packet. No one else has seen them yet. That's how I understood it until we came to the meeting.
I think that's a clarification point we can make. I think this is public, because this is our recording, until, this is a working draft, that until it's approved, then it's not a public document yet,
Yeah.
because it hasn't been approved by the council. So we can ask that point of clarification to how that goes, so. Okay. So, it's 9:37, I don't see anything else on our
We have
agenda?
public comments.
Oh, yeah, public comment?
They're probably worn out.
Well, my understanding of minutes is that that is an exact, your digital recording is an exact copy of what is said. A minutes is a summary of what is said.
I agree with that.
It would.
And can be a vast difference between what's actually said and what is interpreted. Even with the best of intentions, two people listening to what's happening are going to have different interpretations of what's said. Five people would have all different interpretations.
Whenever there's data compression, there's loss of information, for sure.
And then when you throw in ego and personal bias.
No, none of that here.
All I like to say is that I was misquoted in the minute. I saw a copy of the minutes, and I was misquoted, and that bothers me in that I always referred to Bunny and Scott together. And in the minutes, it was only that I was concerned for Bunny. I was concerned for both of them.
That will come out in the transcription.
Yeah,
if we
right,
get it.
right.
For that reason, I think having a transcription in this instance is probably a good idea.
On your phone that you can play it on, and you can click on record it, and then when you're all done, you hit save, and you hit another button, and it prints everything out, and then you can send it right to your phone.
Okay.
We have voice recognition software that would do the job for
I
us.
looked into that after this last meeting and finding out the fiasco on what was going to take place. So it's
Well,
called
I made-
Office 365.
Well, that's Microsoft Office. So I just noted here as a correction, potentially for next time, is Billy voiced her opinion and felt that Bunny and Scott were treated unfairly and not getting their vacation pay. So that's what I put here, I mean, that we can go through, so.
And I do apologize. I know where I was at that point in my day, being here till 10:30 that day at night. I laxed on, and
Well,
it was the very end of the
That's the
minutes.
purpose. I mean, every council meeting we've gone through, we've corrected minutes for every council meeting I've been at.
Yeah.
So that happens. So that's
Well,
the,
I think if Marge is being accused of not recording properly, then it should be transcribed, if she's for defending herself.
yeah, and the part that I'm specifically referencing wasn't even discussed at the council meeting, so it has nothing to do with the city council. I mean, it has nothing to do with the meeting itself. But it's something that she said at the council meeting, but I take that back. she did say that at the council meeting, and she can talk about it, but what she stated was not a fact. So,
And if everybody could please remember, these are my first actual full minutes
Well, and-
ever written in my lifetime.
And that's
So-
why a transcription would be nice to protect you too, so.
yeah. Okay. So it's now 9:41. Is there anything else, or do you want to? Oh, Carol, yes. Carol.
I don't come to these meetings, I haven't seen a council meeting before. This is very interesting.
You're the only one to say that.
And this may be an improper question, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. We've had two civil servants that had over 70-some years of dedicated service to this community. My understanding was there was budget in 2019 to pay their vacation pay, maybe at the 75%. I realize they serve under the discretion of the mayor. The mayor represents the interest of the city and the citizens. My question would be, did you have a specific reason for treating them in the manner that they were treated, not told that they weren't getting their money until right up to Christmas, and then to be so dismissive about anybody's attempt to find out why?
Yeah, so that's a personnel issue that cannot be discussed in public forum.
Convenient.
That sounds like a backhanded way of not fessing up to why these people were treated.
Rules are rules.
I can't help it.
State law, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, if you go to the school board, I hear them say it every single time, and as frustrating as it is, it's a personnel issue with the city, that the city then could be liable for certain things. So it's an executive session. It's a personnel matter that requires that would be discussed only in executive session by the council members.
But it requires a vote, and the only vote that can occur is around this, a vote by the council.
The chance to go to executive session does not require any vote.
I understand.
The motion to do that to make a motion requires a vote. So
Did you at least explain to the two employees the reason for not honoring this long-time tradition?
again, I have to say that that's a personnel issue, that matter that requires, it can't be talked about in a public forum.
I'm talking to them.
It's a personnel issue that requires, it's only allowed to be discussed in executive session. Your question is relates to a personnel matter that cannot be discussed in public forum.
The question I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Justin.
Yep.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion at 9:44 to adjourn by Councilmember Luck,
Second.
Acting Mayor Luck, and seconded by Schenk. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same
Time
sign. All right, 9:44. Great.
I did.
Well, a lot of work to do.
I get my other